Hey, we are now live, and yeah, I was just chatting up with Dave about Observer Things, and yeah, so Dave is the founder of the Objective Personality System, along with Shan, of course. Shan is also a founder, um, and yeah, so we're going to talk today about some of the bigger questions and things that the community has been wondering about, as well as like really covering Dave's side of things and perspective that we don't really get to cover in YouTube videos and Q&As and on his own website even, and trying to create like a nice environment and space for us to just talk out what's going on with objective personality. There's new developments. It's 2023. There's an original vision mission, and where are we going with things and all that. So, Dave, welcome to the YouTube live.
Hey
How
Habib,
you
thanks for
doing?
setting this up, man. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really good to have you, and yeah, we're really looking forward to getting into some of these
let's do it.
questions. Yeah.
I love
So
your doc. I love your
social
preparation
types.
you got here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm blasting to go.
Let's go. Let's go. So the first thing is social types. This thing has really shaken up the community from every which angle. So like even to just say on my doc, like I'm like social types. And
Yeah,
it's like, all right, what do you mean, Habib? Like what are we actually talking about today? Because there are some people who really get that there's kind of like this social hierarchy, social types, social needs.
yeah.
Um, but then it's also like, wait, like why are we introducing it now? And is it fully baked? Do we have the definitions? And people are scrambling, and we're going from 9 coins to almost 11 coins, question mark.
I'm tapping out with the coins game. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
I know.
god. So how do you like to think of it now in terms of like um kind of what you wanted to get across to the community initially by spreading it out?
Oh, geez. So I love to tell the longer story since we got the time.
Yeah.
So with all of these coins, they've all come backwards from like trying to figure stuff out, trying to make stuff work in reality. So they're always coming from some problem we have in reality. It's usually somebody we're fighting or there's some negative issue. So we're never doing this stuff for research or fun or any of that. It's just a young or middle-aged couple now, so fighting through life, trying to raise a kid, trying to hire people, trying to do a business. So we have like all these different battles and all these different things we're working on, you know. And so it's where we'll get these like areas of pressure and consistent problems, and we're like, what is that? And then we'll start to see it in, you know, other people, other businesses, other friends and family will talk about the same problem. We're like, okay, so there's something common. What is that? And so we just started to notice that we would have the same kind of problems with people when it would come to like trying to give people jobs. You know, like some people would really love the responsibility job, like they're just born entrepreneurs, and you couldn't get them to focus on a damn thing. You know, and like they'd have like a lot of ADD like tendencies. I would kind of fall in that category. Had a hard time in school or focusing on any one thing. And so we were able to sweep all that underneath the 512 function rug really well, you know, and even the functions, the 512, it was 128 for the longest time for a couple of years, and then it was 256 for a couple of years, and then it was finally 512. So we've been starting with I think it was like 2014 when we started to first figure out the jumpers, maybe something like that. It might have even been sooner. So you figure like every 2 years since 2014, there's been, you know, like it would keep kind of like a new coin would be introduced or whatever. And all of the coins going from 128 to 256 to 512 to now the socials, they've all come from, we'll be looking at a data set of, say, the ENFPs or the ISFPs or the ISTJs. And we'll be like, okay, so all of these that are on file, why are these the same type? And yet these three are very much the same. And then these two are very different. And we would try and find, is there another coin that we're missing, or why do these look alike and these don't look alike? We're always chasing that game, chasing the looks like game. And so it was literally last summer. It was literally right about this time. It was in April of 2022. I think it was finally when me and Michael were going for a walk, and Channing and I had been talking about this for months, but we were kind of rolling around the idea that there might be different types within types or social types or some other factor of coins that have to deal with responsibility, specialization, stuff like that. And it was just very much how AI does it, where we will just shit out. Well, we meaning usually me, I'll like shit out some silly, ridiculous, dumb idea, and then but pretty quick with this one, because we had the math of like how the 512s work and stuff like that. I ran straight to the sexual math, and I looked at the sexual math where you have the 4 modalities and the 4 different sexuals that this beautiful math, this genetic math in the whether your sensory is masculine or feminine, and then then the modalities follow over top of that. And so there was kind of a math or a coin to it. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can. What are 4 variables, 4 descriptions that we keep saying? So like what I'll do is then go back and like, all right, the past year or two of like complaining about a subject, what words keep coming up? I'm just listening for the word, like, oh, I keep hearing the words responsible, not responsible, or flexing or showing off or ego or specialization. And there'll be different sets. There'll be different words for each of those words. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
like these would be the words. So I'm like, okay, so I'll pile all those words up and be like, all right, so if there was a math set of 4 with this pile, okay, actually these words are kind of the same, responsibility and take charge or generalization. Well, those words are kind of the same. We'll put those together. And then just kind of sorting it out, and then just run it through. Then you bring it to Shan, then you bring it to Michael, then you try and run through, and they go, no, that doesn't, no, that's not what's happening here. And you just get all your shit shot down for a couple of months. And then finally Shan will be like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that. And then the real test is like, okay, so here's what the math would be. Here's what it is. Then it's like, you got to set back and be like, all right, now you tell me what, handsome Ron across the street, what type would you see him as? Oh, 2, a number 2. Like, oh, that's what I got. Okay, what about his wife? Oh, that should be number 3. Oh, that's what I got. Okay. And then you're like, oh, here we go. And then you start to get on the roll there, and then the final test, like this has been the thing with all the coins, is when it knocks your own self into an existential, fuck off, where then the next, really now it's been a year, we're still just like fumbling around going, oh, so that's why we have a hard time here, or that's why 10 years ago, or when I was a kid, or you have all these monkey nap stories where it starts off where you're smacking at, how do I get this person to be more productive? And then you're slick, then you figure out a code, and then it's like the Neo where he touches the thing, and it remember when he was going to the Matrix, and like it touches him and then it goes down his mouth. There's like just like one of those things where just like, now it just you just envelop into it, and you can't get out of it. You can't stop seeing it everywhere. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but primarily my own self. No. It's like a lot of self processing.
That monkey nap thing, like, get into that for a little bit, because like, here's the thing, you already uncovered the 512. You're like, all right, Myers-Briggs took it to this length, and now along with Shan, you've discovered the extra mile. But now, and you've had your series of monkey naps for that, but now you're hit with another one. It's like, hey, I thought I already figured this shit out, and now you got another few, like,
right.
So what is,
and I finally kind of see him coming. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What is this monkey nap, and like, how can people like know that they're in that? Because sometimes I think people can kind of move past it, right? Like, not everyone takes the actual monkey nap. Like, people are like, oh, that's something, all right, let me go help my mom, or like, whatever.
Right.
So what are people not doing that you did when Shan's like, oh shit, there is something here?
I think everybody, so to define monkey nap, like, we're gonna have, I've gotten a bunch of terms written out that once we get the new website up and go and stuff, like, there'll be every silly thing you've heard us say, monkey nap times literally 1,000 terms, turns out. I have them all finally written down, defined. We have the class note stock where I've got the terms of the actual coins. I'm very proud of my SI that I've written out. But the term monkey nap is referring to us when Shanny and I were early on discovering the code. We were probably around 128, 256, somewhere in there. And started watching primate documentaries and started to realize that, no, it was before 128, because it was the animals, when we discovered the animal functions. And then so we started to realize that the humans are chimps and chimps are humans, like seeing how evolution was true. And it was kind of like the last deep break from coming from like a Christianity worldview, where it was really great because we could just throw everything over the fence that, oh, God did it. And that's just the way it is. And you didn't really have to, like, didn't really affect you, So once we started to see like humans are really primates, and therefore there's just a deep kind of responsibility and fear that goes with that. There's nobody coming to save you type of thing. But from what I see, and then, consume last, doing the research, like, what the hell was that? And then I do the research, then doing the research. It's just kind of like stages of grief or a trauma or a brain break. So I think anybody that has gone, like they've grown up in one religion, and then by the time they get older, they start to realize, oh, the religion that I came from, I don't believe in that anymore, or it's not real, or they'll switch from like Democrat to Republican. But it's like, it sounds funny, but it's like something that's a really, really huge deal for that person, or somebody dies, and literally like the Andrew Huberman-ness of it is like the brain is actually being, scarred, and there's neurological breakaways and stuff going on in the actual brain, and
Yeah, I'm seeing it as something like an evolution or an update, like a legitimate, it's like, hey, I can't make that mistake anymore. Or like imagine some animal or some rat that figures out how to get through the
yeah,
maze every time, as opposed to like 50% of the time. It's like,
yeah,
hey, I've really figured something out now. And so
yeah,
I need to do
right.
a monkey nap. Yeah.
Right. What I understand with the neurology of it, you think I know all these big words by now, but it seems to be like when you create habits over time, there's like a big thing with habits of like 30, 60, 90 days, or a year, 2 years or whatever. There's like it's just like with muscle fibers working out. There's like little tiny neurons that start to connect and wire together. Then over time, that pathway gets more and more until it finally just becomes an automatic pilot, which could take months or years. And it seems to be that a monkey nap is like a connection in a learning in the negative that happens like very, very instantaneously, like with within like 10 minutes or whatever. And you'll hear about it in stories of some of the best stories. I love studying stories of addiction, where people that will be like addicted to hardcore drugs or whatever, really bad lifestyle, and they'll actually like face death and stuff like that. And they'll almost all of them will have a point to where they're like, okay, so this one night, like, here we go, here comes the story. We were out on the roof and we were shooting guns and this and that, and they get into some crazy ass story. And then this happened. And then they describe where they finally are like, okay, and that's when I realized I'm done with this lifestyle. Like something happened. And it wasn't even that much more crazy than what usually happens, in their crazy life. But there's something that'll be like, bzz, like the brain will it'll have like a deep scarring, it feels like. And all of a sudden they'll make this Apostle Paul conversion. But it seems to be like in a negative, like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. Where if you want to build it positively, that's the one that does take. It's not like I learned Chinese, like, because I hit my head and I got really traumatized and I learned it. Like, no, you got to build that habit. You know what I mean? So the monkey nap part of it was it literally, like, you can feel your body just like fall asleep. Like there's your our first monkey nap, it was a summer's day, and we were actually sleeping downstairs because the house was so hot. And we got up, we were fine. Cody was gone for the summer, and we were doing fine. And like we watched this documentary, had this experience, and then it just went right back to sleep for another 8 hours, like 1 in the afternoon or something. And that was a continual thing that we saw, is that the brain, the body will actually get sleepy as feels like the brain is going through the changes. So that's monkey naps.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Jamie Lee Curtis thing you mentioned in our call, where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, have people had that breakthrough moment where
Right.
you're really just like downloading that update? And yeah, that's something that, if you feel yourself going through, I would encourage people, myself with demon sleep, like it's about getting into that sleep mode for a lot of us who are just in play mode and moving on to the next thing. It's like, hey, slow down. Like you have something to download there. Like
Yeah.
download that update on your computer. I know it's going to take 12 hours and it's going to feel
Right.
like, 3 weeks or whatever, and just do it. And it does come to the cost of the play and
Yeah.
obligations and all that, but like just allow yourself to have that deep 15-hour sleep that
Right.
Andrew Huberman will not talk about, you know?
Right. Right. It's in all the stories. You hear people taking, a lot of times in the hero's journey stories, what I hearing in the masculine sensory is it's usually on average 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Usually people are down. That's definitely the case for us. We were off the fucking record. We were just gone. We were gone for many years back then. But yeah, definitely what you're saying is, when I now feel that, I try and have my schedule to where I have a lot of time for nothing, because I know shit comes in and I'll need to either recover or process or help something out or whatever. That's been life changing. It's like you look at your schedule, oh, there's a white space right here, and you like fill it in. You're like, no, you're gonna need that to go cry in the shower or process or sleep or something with something. If you're doing a life that's taking you through things, you got to factor in, you're going to need to be able to process that and work with that recovery. I know for me, I have the saver sleep, but as an extrovert, it's like I don't even get to use it. I still just like run right over it, and I end up with a back. Even as saver sleep, I still am very sleep last. I will still have a backlog of processing or recovery I got to do, you know?
Yeah, we'll get into that as well, maybe. Yeah, that like every type has got it the worst, right? Like
Yeah.
every and until you see that part of it, you're not really seeing it. Like,
Yeah, right. Right.
yeah.
You're like walking up to
So
a
I
car,
want
you're like, okay, which of these 4 tires do you want me to take off? You're like,
to.
one of the back ones? Wait, what? Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'm excited to get through the rest of the topics we have here, but like just to finish up on the social type, um, as far as like the community goes, like I saw it as a beautiful opportunity for everyone to test their crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like here's a couple more coins. We're going from 9 to 11 possibly, and like can you just hold your shit together?
Yeah.
And then everyone's losing their shit on some level. Not really. Okay, credit
Yeah.
to the extent to which you've been able to hold on to your shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen people really have mixed feelings and try to approach it scientifically, try to approach it, in a wholesome way, where they're trying to look at it, entertain it. But it is shocking some people, and there's a kind of varied responses from everyone, from
Yeah.
panic to like, oh, I totally get it. I've seen this my whole life. And
Yeah.
I understand this more than the 512 actually in
Yeah,
some
seeing that.
cases. So like how are you seeing like this as kind of an opportunity for people in the community to, yeah, test themselves?
Yeah. So one thing on that, looking at the numbers from my perspective, it's definitely something I learned early on in the RC world. It's really hard to see the demographic of a community online. It's much easier, like if this is the old days where we're all at church, where you can see everybody in one room. So if you're looking at a community of let's just say, I don't know, what do you say, like 3,000 people, let's say, it's like you have a spectrum there. Some are just kind of YouTube lurkers. Some will be only on the forums but not on the class. Some will be in the class but not on the forums. And so you get this really hard to read spectrum. And then the ones that your brain takes as a much higher registry is like, if they're in the sensory, like they're actually posting on the forums and the forums are getting a lot of views or likes. And then if it's also negative, it's like your brain will go and like register that as a lot, even though it's only like 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. So I'm aware of that, and I'll feel myself as well. It's like if I get like 2 slightly neutral emails, I'm like, oh gosh, everybody hates it. Like I'll feel that reaction. I'll be like, hey, wake up. And even me as a double decider with FI, it's like I feel like I would have one of the leastest problems with that, and I still have a really hard time. So I can't imagine everybody else who's DE or just anything. And plus, I guess the biggest thing too is like, also I haven't gone through it since 2004 like I have. Like I'm aware of this game. So for me, when I'm trying to like get the picture of like how is the community accepting something, I'm trying to like, okay, so what are the people complaining over here? What are the emails? What are the people that you don't see? The silent majority, I love staying in touch with them because they'll like text me or email or in person. Like they don't come in through the normal channels, especially through like the online forums or whatever. And so usually the online forums are like where there's usually younger kids that are trying to, extrovertedly, negatively process something. And I get it. That's what I used to do as well. But anyways, with all that said, if it was negative, I'd be the first to say it and be like, oh shit. But I actually got surprised the other way, where I was bracing for, I didn't really want to bring them up. I'm like, great, here's one more thing for everybody to fuck up and get upset about and get negative about. And when I put together all of my sum total data from what I'm seeing on all the different people I'm seeing actually a very large net positive. I'm seeing most of the people that I see and all the different things, there are some negatives here and there. Most of them are kind of saying what you're saying there a little bit of like, they're like, huh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've seen that. And then the other thing, the biggest thing that's surprised me is the people that I've interacted with now with social types, probably over 40 or 50 people, is most of, or then also including the people that are coming through with video typing, they'll take a guess on their social type and almost all of them are right. Or at least, right according to, I'll watch their video and kind of figure out a guess of what I think their type is. And then I like to figure out their type. And then I go to their doc later and I read all their shit to see what they see of themselves. I'd like to kind of like test that up. And most of the time we're getting the same as each other. And then Shan will, come in later and she'll get the same as well. So that was a surprise. Just some insights on that. It seems to be, from my perspective, so my analysis or my conclusion on this is, it feels to me that when it comes to the personality code, there's parts of it that your brain is like, no, you're not allowed to see that. And I think like sensory versus intuition, that used to be a big one, where there was like your brain was like, it's on, there's a war, like it's gonna flip that one around. So the letters, it seems that your virus brain seems to fight you on the letters, and then it'll seem to fight you on the temperament, like EJIP, the human needs, and then it'll fight you on the functions, which is kind of back to the letters. So the brain seems to hide from you one of those. So a lot of times when we see people that get their type wrong, it's like their brain will do them a bargain. They'll be like, here, I'll let you see the letters, but I won't let you see your animals. And they'll flip the animals. And they'll type themselves almost perfectly upside down. And you can see their brain fucking with them. For me, when I was younger, it hid from me feeler and thinker. It like wouldn't let me see that one, and it wouldn't let me see introvert extrovert. I would like die the day that I was an introvert, and I could feel, looking back, I could feel my brain trying to protect me and hide that.
And now, I hear you say that, and people, they don't get that you went through the hell. Like,
I've been doing this since
like,
1999.
you're just trying to throw me a bone or something. It's like, you don't really know what it's like, Dave, right? Like, that's
1999, suckers. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. Yeah. I'm the crazy of all crazies. But the thing that I was surprised in the early years, we also when we were going to do the membership class in 2018, we didn't want to reveal the whole, or I didn't want to reveal the whole code. I didn't want to do the sexuals. I had a thing with the sexuals. I thought people were going to not be, you start telling people they're double feminine or masculine, like, and it turns out nobody gives a shit. Like, and then people type themselves usually right on with their sexuals. Like that's another one. Like most of the time when people take a guess, like, especially if I'm trying to figure out visual or double feminine or some shit, or audio or visual or double feminine, a lot of times I'll go with the client's guess. They're like, yeah, I think I'm double feminine. I'm like, well, you probably know better than I am. You've got the rest of your shit figured out pretty well. So people just don't seem to care. And the brain doesn't seem to hide from them their modalities or their sexual functions or whatever, even though I thought, it would be a big deal if you, I think maybe I had a problem with it. I think I didn't like that I was double feminine at the top. I think looking back, I think I didn't like that about myself, which now I'm like, what the hell? That's fucking great. I'm masculine SF. I love that shit. Like I love my feminine.
Masculine FI. Yo, that's awesome.
I love it. But at the time I didn't. I was looking at, because I was coming from, I didn't know what a jumper was. I'm like, I'm an INTJ and my top two functions are double feminine. Oh, no wonder I'm so skinny. And like, it would just bring back like, insecurities about being too skinny growing up or something like that, right? And so, but that doesn't seem to be the case for most people. So so you can thank Shan for that. She's like, no, let's tell the whole code. Don't hide information. So then when we do the socials, I thought for sure it was going to be the same thing. I'm like, oh God, people are going to take this as like classism, and like, what's the worst way you can fuck this up? Like classism or almost like racism stuff, or this like, the social pyramid and all that. And then most people are like, huh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I'm a number 3. Yeah, cool. And I'm just like, what? There's not a lot of drama, especially when you kind of, because people, they seem to be like, the people that I'm talking to, they're like, yeah, so I'm this type. Anyways, back to my list of shit I got to work on. They don't really, they're not playing the game of, I think we really beat the hell out of it with the S versus the N. Like we made a campaign about that in the early years, like a deliberate campaign of like, I will pummel the shit out of everybody if you play this S versus N game. And if you look back, you can see where we just deliberately like poison the well of INFJ and intuitive, and we've now like come back and balance it out, because now it's like nobody gives a shit if you're S or N. Shan's sensory, it's like somebody doesn't really think about it much anymore. But that took a lot of work, because that came in at such a imbalance when we were starting off. And so it's one of the reasons why, if you look for the pattern over time, where we're putting our negativities, we're trying to knock down some kind of a bias. So when you find out you're a number 1, I mean a number 4, there's not this like, oh God, I got the wrong one. It's like, hey, we don't fucking play that game here. We all have that, but we need to get through that quick,
Yeah, real quick for people, actually, just because I think there are some people who had that question about me and the number 1. So, my type, you can see it here, double masculine, SETE, play, consume, sleep. Dave is my opposite, you know that by now, or if not, watch earlier interviews of him. And it is cool, first of all, that ESFP and INTJ interviewing here. So you get to see the opposites, right? But also, I was typed as a social 1. Are you still seeing that? And because like for the people, because like I know it, but like there are people who are like Habib's too friendly and stuff like
Right.
that.
That's what I told Shan.
And like, what do you say to these people? Because I don't, I also don't need to defend myself, like, you know, that, or I don't need to help you there. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually because I'm hiding that vulnerability side, because I have to
Right.
be a number one,
Right.
that you don't know all the dark stuff that I shared with you in the video and stuff, and all that.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I know what you mean. One thing that I had to settle for myself early on is people will say that they're like, "Oh, Habib's not that. He's too nice, or he's too good at typing, or like he can't." So it's like, hey, Dick, you gotta know, unless you've seen, pick a number like that science would agree with, 1,000 giraffes or 1,000 ESFJs that are verified. You don't really know. Everything is still in surprise mode, like, you know. And as you get older, it's really really true. It's like I haven't seen 1,000 verified number ones, assuming this pattern is even real. So that's why it's like I've gone beyond the like just saying the words to cover my ass, but like actually believing the truth, because I've just been embarrassed so many times. It's like really really going, okay, my opinion at this time, from my understanding of the social types, is from what I'm seeing is Habib is not a number 4. From what I'm seeing in other number 4s and what I'm defining it, and I'm seeing that he's not a number 3, and I'm seeing that he has responsibility, but he's not a 2. I think that narrows him down to a 1, and then I'd have to get to know him more. But what I'm seeing in his videos, what I'm seeing in the conversations we've had, the different videos you've sent me, and the interactions, and the stuff that Shan has told me about you, because she's worked and interacted with you for about a year now or so. So putting all that together, it's like I can confidently say the best I can in the year 2023 at this time of like, yeah, I'm seeing that you fit those definitions of those terms, and that helps, because it's then like I would say that the numbers are still, it's still under 10%, but I will be more confident on somebody, and then 2 years later I'm like, who the hell typed you that? They're like, you did, and you're like super confident. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? So it's not that it doesn't happen. So I still try and like, you know, but every time I try and go, okay, how did I get that so far off of 2 years later or whatever. So it's I just don't fight it. And I think I have an advantage with my feminine NT, that I don't really believe the patterns that much. It's not that I don't believe them, but it's just they feel like wispy ghosts that kind of, you have feminine N, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
You know?
yeah, I totally know. It's like, oh, I was wrong that one time. That's fine. I
Right.
concluded wrongly. That's not a big deal. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
just try again, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so yeah, then I then try. That's why I leverage the sensory of like, okay, so how many times per year am I getting this wrong? I try and remember that number, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I tell people it's like it's really the ultimate thing to try and look at is the bigger picture of Habib has got to be responsible to Habib at the end of the fucking year. Like, you got to live with yourself. Like, who cares what fucking number you are, other than you're using those. You take the number, you're like, right, what are the coins? Oh, responsibility and specialization. Oh, damn, that specialization. I'm an EP and I'm not specialing. Fuck, that's really going to be hard to narrow in on one fucking thing at a time. And then the friendship versus the flex and the goals and stuff like that. Like, okay, is that a problem I'm having in my life? Because it's like at the end, it's like you're answering to the predictability of somebody's life. And it's like, it's really fun. It's fun to predict other people's lives, but it kind of just gets kind of dumb after a while, because it's like, hey, watch this. This person's going to blow their fucking life up at Christmas. And then a lot of the times this just comes with getting older. You're just trolling fucking kids and watch them do the same stupid shit that you've just seen in the sensory over and over again. And after a while, it gets boring just to be able to predict everyone else's bullshit that they can't see. And then eventually you're like, all right, I got to predict my bullshit. Like, how,
Yes.
like,
My
where am I?
bullshit.
Yeah. And so therefore it's like,
Yeah.
who cares what fucking, you know, you got to get it right so you can start to predict. And then that takes you back to
Yeah, if
monkey
you don't
land.
point the fingers back at yourself, like, then you're not playing the fucking game.
Right.
And I know, you know, for me, it's easy to say it as a number one, because like I'm doing that. By the way, you know, I had to remind myself, and I had to get literal physical masculinity, like people to tell me to not self-promote,
Oh
use
yeah.
this interview for self-promotion, because I'm like doing this coaching thing. All right, let me not even mention that.
Right.
I just did. Oops. Fuck.
That's
Like,
right. That's good.
right.
Yeah.
And like, I want to be friendly, right? It's a
Right.
freaking journey. This is my boulder up the hill, to be nice, friendly to Dave, give him a platform for what you want to get across that you haven't been able to. Like, how can I give back, because
Right.
guess what? And my feeling is that Dave's given way more than enough to me. Like I've gotten, like, the balance sheet is off. That's kind of how I see it. That's what I tell myself so I can be giving,
Right.
because
Right.
I've gotten enough. My cup is full. It's running over. I got my Lion mug here. It's full. And yeah, it's I have enough. I have more
There's the
than
king
enough.
right there. Little leak
Yeah.
outs. Who has a fucking
Oh my
lion on
God.
their mug? Like somebody who's fucking dominating. I wouldn't have that. It would scare people. I'm trying to be your friend. I don't want to scare
Exactly.
you up. No,
Oh
thanks a
my
lot, man. That's
God.
really good. It's. I remember at the gym, one of the best compliments you could give a natural bodybuilder is accuse them of being on steroids. You know what I mean? Like really take that in. When people would be like, "Oh, you're lying, man. You're on steroids." I had that one time. I had gained a bunch of weight, and some people were convinced I was on steroids. It was the greatest compliment I ever got, that they thought I was on steroids. And so if somebody, like, people will type me an ESTP, I'm like, God damn, thank you. I'm OE, I'm cool, and I'm handsome. I take that as a compliment. People think I got my type wrong. So I take it as a compliment if people are like, no, you can't be that type. You're too nice. You're like, whew, fooled them. That's
Oh
great.
yeah. Oh, that felt so good. But then like it felt, and let me try to give this positivity, right? Because look, like what happens is that it's really nice to get that compliment, the steroids compliment and stuff like that. It's like, yo, Habib, you're killing it. But I'm like, bro, like if you're gonna give me that, then you don't really see me.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
and so that's why I really felt like touched on like a different level in terms of like seen. Like I felt seen in my soul, right? You know,
Yeah,
Dave's out there trying to take people's souls, but David Goggins, I mean,
right.
that's the other David. But you are seeing people's souls, and it's a way more like loving nature, a loving act that I think
Yeah,
people miss when they are overly skeptical and don't allow themselves to see the positive. And for me, I'll just say, you know, it's amazing what you do for people, and myself getting into the typing game, like telling people the truth
yeah,
that they don't want to hear, and they're going to yell at you and they're going to bite your hand, you know,
yeah,
like it's like, oh, you didn't want to hear you're an ESFP, huh? Shit. What do I do? Sorry, you have SE, not any.
right,
Fuck. And then they're just like, ah, you
right.
know, and it's a loving act to see somebody and to not lie to them, and to, when everyone else is telling you, hey, you're on steroids, hey, you
Yeah,
look good, hey, you're friendly, you're awesome, you know. And I really appreciate that when people tell me that, but on some level I still need somebody out there to actually see me for me.
yeah, man. Yeah, totally. Totally. That's really good. It's really good. Yeah. It's definitely having like an inner masculine TI, you know, to be like, look, I gotta say the truth from what I'm seeing at this time, and then try and work through with love with people. I'm putting the audios back in on the video typing has been great, because I've been able to kind of get to know people and then send them kind of a loving audio, kind of to doing my best at that time to kind of walk them through, work them through the shock of getting their type, you know, because like I was referencing earlier, for somebody told me like, oh, actually you have introvert extrovert backwards, like I would need more than a week to process that. I'd be rather upset. So, but yeah, then at the same time, it's like nobody's going to tell you you're walking off a cliff, or you tell these damn extroverts like, dude, you're the one draining everybody else. You know, I know it's going to hurt now, but you're going to be thankful 10 years from now, you know? Yeah.
Yeah,
the,
totally.
the
So,
loving mess we've gotten ourselves into.
oh man, yeah, the NF is hitting me, like in a good way. But yeah, let's continue on here. So I have on here limitations of OPS. Now this is something I'm like, oh man, this is like a whole other topic, because you know, for me, just, you know, because I'm a masochist. No, I enjoy like seeing people, let's say, criticize OPS, and kind of come at the TI angle of like, hey, this isn't done, this isn't, you know, or
Yeah.
like, hey, it's not scientific yet, or blah blah
Yeah,
blah,
totally.
you know. And it's like, what kind of limitations do you see ops having that you care to share about? Because fucking everything in the world is limited in some capacity. Every theory is limited. Like, we don't know how to prove everything, all the things. I mean, ops is really good stuff, and it honestly is enough to get moving forward in life. That's kind of my take on it. Like, it really is enough, and sure, it has limitations, but it gets you further than pretty much anything else I've seen personally.
Yeah.
Um, so, but just speaking to like the limitations of it, like how do you see ops as limited, and what's kind of the healthy disclaimer you could say, like, hey, this isn't this. If you're looking for that, don't come here. Like,
Yeah.
what are the real limitations there? Like the
Yeah,
boundaries?
yeah, yeah. That's gonna be a hard one for me because it's like that's where like my DI. Like I'm not really tracking in depth the point of view of the skeptic. And I don't really spend a lot of time like trying to like convince anybody or whatever. I'm more like trying to ride the brake as long as I can. So for me, honestly, just from my point of view, it's kind of like I kind of, when I hear that people are like, oh, it's not scientific, or like the skepticism, I'm like, okay, good. I've got another year. I've got some more time. Like the last thing I want to hear now when we have a small team is people going, wait a minute, we got to take this to CNN. Like, I'm like, oh shit, it's starting already. So it's like, for me, the thing with the limitations, right? So the limitations are from my perspective, from what I'm seeing, is it's more of like hiring and scaling, like staying caught up with it, like because the way the ops, let's see, how do I put this, like the ops coins are great. So like it's let me see if I can put this all together. So ops is like, it's more of a process, right? So it's like, I feel like we figured out like a data driven process to psychology that starts with a couple of coins. It starts with introvert extrovert. Okay, that's as old as the hills with that term. Somebody define it. Okay, so let's define it this way, that way. And then there's the process of, okay, if we define introvert and extrovert this way, can we have independent people, including Habib, type other people and just get the same number to get the same consistency? Now, I don't know why that isn't enough for most people, because it's like normal psychology can't do that. They can't do that in the big five. Okay. Jordan Peterson and his big five buddies can't go and sit in independent rooms and type 100 clients using the big five and get anywhere near the same as each other. Okay. It cannot be done. Okay. It's not done. Okay. Nobody can do that kind of shit. The fact that the op system here can do that, that really puts it in its kind of its own class of its own. It's not, you have to be tracking something in objective reality. You can't just have a fucking, brain tune to your partner. You can't just, like, you have to be looking at something objective to get those kind of numbers. You can do it 10 times in a row, maybe, sure, whatever, Enneagram or whatever, but you're talking about thousands, and you're consistently getting the same as your partner, or now partners, many people that are defined. That's what science has been looking for. They're looking for definability, trackability, scalability, where you get other people to do it. Now, as you know, Habib, it takes 2 years of fucking hell to learn how to goddamn type. Like it's one of the hardest things in the world to learn how to do. AI is also, in my strong opinion, going to be able to do this just fine. But it's like, the point is, it creates a process where it's like, okay, now we have introvert extrovert defined. So there's one, and then you layer on top of it. Now let's define sensory and intuition. And now you layer two. And then you do another one. Now you have 9 coins, and now you throw in 4 more. And like, there'll probably be, probably several more coin discoveries in our lifetime using this method, this process. And then does it start to like branch out? Can we use that process to define coins that are maybe not as genetic, stuff with like child fixed and growth mindset, stuff that comes on later in life? Probably, So it feels it's more of like a scientific process that creates a data-driven profile in the end, So not to get too far ahead here, but like my goal, if I were to have a goal, and it's really, I'm just looking at, I'm not a fucking decider. Okay. I'm just looking at the dots going, ah, shit, that's where this goes. Ah, fuck. All right. Well, I better get ready. So it's like where I see this going, not that I wanted it to go this way or like it going this way, but I see in the end a data-driven profile set. So a couple of examples would be, and I've said this many times, like you have the LGBT kid come in and, transgender ENFP, and you're like, hey, so we have 173 people of your exact same type typed on file over the past 20 years. And just like 23andMe, and, 86% have red hair, 54% are not straight, 37% are transgender, whatever. So there's just numbers. And then as you get in more data, then those numbers are kind of, corresponding as well. And then the same goes the other way for as many different traits that are able to be tracked through the scientific data process that is used with numbers. When we tell the FBI, hey, this personality type, there's a clustering of this type of violent, aggressive behavior. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, so here's the numbers. We have 100 people on file, or let's put it the other way, of people that have committed a violent crime X, Y, and Z in this description. a large percentage of them are this type. And so I was like, wait a minute, what? So there's numbers that can be tied to actions and traits and stuff like that. And the numbers could be as low as 1% or 0%, or the numbers could be as high as, I don't know, 90%, something like that, depending on what the hell it is that you're tracking. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get into that, but like, yeah, I mean, if you could tell that, hey, this person's not just a criminal, like in that sense, like stop it before it happens. It reminds me of that movie that I never watched, where they stop the crimes before it happens.
Yeah.
Because if you're like a double masculine ESFP, sleep last, like, hey, like send a counselor over there, like help them work stuff out now when they're 15 or 12 before this doesn't end well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it definitely can. Yeah, the violent crime, it's like it's just a spectrum. I mean, a lot of people can like start connecting these dots for themselves. There's a lot of stuff that we're not saying that we're saying if you look for it. But like, if you look at like, if the hardest people in the world for us to type are the people that are balanced, where you have a nice, calm, controlled, loving Habib that's going to slow us down, because we're trying to figure out what side is up. So the more calm and balanced somebody is, the longer and harder it is for us to type them. Our typing procedure thrives in what drives human beings. And our core theory is that humans are driven 90% by a genetic fear. That's really what's driving us. And even your positive, even your goal is just some type of reverse coin of that actual fear. So it's like why you get a new job or a spouse or whatever, that can all be traced back to a repeatable, trackable fear, which is why you can get all this predictability if you're actually understanding and tracking that. And so it's like the more somebody is driven by fear, driven by their default genetic fears, and comboed in by what their upbringing was, kind of gasoline on the fire will amplify that. The faster and easier it is to type somebody. And so when we see like, I've got to stay away from them because my just engines turn on when I start watching crime documentaries. Shanny can kind of jump in and jump out a little more than I can, but it's like, you're just screaming at the TV when you're watching crime documentaries or murders or stuff that's going on in the news. Like just any little clue that they'll leave, like there's the guy in Idaho that was a couple of months ago that killed those 4 kids at the college dorm. It's just like, right away, you start to piece together, you start to know based upon data and experience, okay, I know which types that is not. I know who did not do that. And then you start to narrow in like, okay, and how did they do it? Okay, that sounds like masculine sensory. And then you just start profiling them down, just like an FBI profile. You start to narrow them down pretty fucking fast. And then the startling point is then in the end, they catch the guy. And a lot of times it's like, it's like we're following along, kind of going, yep, that's who we thought it would be. And then there's the type that you think they would be. And then at the end, they're like, and we don't know why. And we don't know why. And we're going to autopsy their brain. And we don't know why. We don't know why they did this. And we're just like, oh my God, we can fucking tell you why. I can tell you why, what's going on inside that person's head. Like why? And then you're left with the questions of, okay, why is that not happening more? Because like everybody's on the verge of like insanity, and it's just that a few people just let that go. But it's not that everybody of that type is struggling with that. Not just that one guy that finally lost it. Everybody of that type has that anger, rage, and darkness inside of them.
How are people not seeing this? That's a question that comes up, right? Like, and there's a certain loneliness I feel when you say that. It's like, and I felt this way, by the way, when like Trump was running for president. And I'm like, how do people not get this guy? This is like a double masculine, like I didn't know type, but like, I'm like, this dude is like me, maybe more DI than me, right? And more like extroverted. Yeah, that's the difference. But we're both kind of number ones. I'm like, oh shit, like where have I been Trump in my life? Freaking like, in our video, I kind of shared a bit more. I'm like, oh shit, I fucking get this guy.
Yeah.
And but the amount of millions of people in the United States who didn't understand him and still don't understand him. Still, even after the fact, everyone's traumatized about like, hey, what the hell was that? Like, how do we not let that happen again? But it's like, hey, why are you scared of this guy who's just like this overgrown baby who has this double feminine sleep that he hasn't gotten to because his dad didn't love him enough? And Mary Trump tried to tell us like, hey, this is a traumatized kid. He's just power hungry, big baby, like, can we talk about that? And there's a certain level of understanding I had about him that I was just like, oh, fuck, like nobody gets him. And
Right.
it made me feel that loneliness because I'm like, shit, if people don't get Trump, people don't get me.
Right.
And yeah, the person's DI and all that, but like this dude, he has the money, but he just has this look of like sadness, 3 a.m. Twitter,
Yeah. Right.
giving fucking cheeseburgers to basketball team or whatever the hell he did. Like he's so out of touch, but still wanting that love, that friends last, that
Yeah.
like, and there's such a desperation with him that people don't see that part. And not the Republicans, not the Democrats, nobody. And it's like, how can we use this motherfucker to forward our agenda? Right.
Yeah.
And so I actually see Trump as like kind of like a puppet or like a victim or like someone who's like, but not in a way to like overly empathize, but
Yeah. Yeah.
like
No, I get it. Yeah.
just to like, hey, people really don't see him. And if you don't see him, you don't know how to work that chess piece.
Right. Yeah. 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 Totally. And I think people have a lot of fear and insecurity with what's going on in the world from their point of view, of people feeling stuck or scared, and then it's just like Trump is this counter force that if they just put more fire behind that, then he's going to come in, and you're just like getting a bully to scare the bully. You know, I think a lot of people will just get behind Trump because they're just afraid or scared, and there's just some way to put the energy and the insecurity, and you see it happening in history. You know, with dictators and stuff. Just that's how Adolf Hitler had so much momentum. There was so much fear and pain that the German people were going through. They're like, I don't know, let's just get behind this guy. It's better than nothing. He's aggressive and fighting and traumatized and hurt, but he says he's on our team. You know, why the hell not? You know?
So I have a question that's on the topic list, and that's why focus on ops over other things and pathways? You know, we're both observers. Things like politics and biohacking. Like, why not figure out why not create a business around that, around like politics or biohacking or whatever else, observer stuff, aliens, you know, like
Yeah, man.
there's so many other observer pathways to get in on.
Yeah.
Why ops? And by the way, on the Hitler thing, like I feel like there were psychology people around him, and like you know, a lot of these wars and stuff, like Kim Jong Un or whoever the hell, like psychology is playing a big role in that. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, like why ops over other things? Why psychology? Why is this your life, Dave?
Me? I'm fucking stuck with it. I want to do aliens, man. I want to do fucking engineering and aliens. I'm stuck with it. That's for me. I fell into it, and it's just I don't really have much more of an answer than that. I want to do other things. I'm going to be doing other things, and TikTok has been a great window to the outside world of looking at other things. And I feel like the more you know, just like the more you take a break or consume or get into other things, then when you come back, it like refreshes and you see that stuff more. But yeah, I'm definitely that's one of the things that I have on the thing of like when I get the team built up here, it's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be taking more time for myself to go recharge and go do more other things and get into more stuff and not do ops 24/7. But it's definitely something that for me, when we kind of started to fall into this and in our mid 30s or early 30s or whatever, it was such a big deal that I just decided, and I just felt like honestly, I feel like no choice, like because like you play it out, like what am I gonna do, you know, like especially coming this far with it, it's like if I'm like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go fly ultralight planes in Alaska. If I ever disappear, that's what I'll be, by the way. I'll be flying ultralight planes in Alaska, like the ones you can like land on the creek and take off, you know, like big giant RC airplanes. So it's like, okay, so now I'm doing that for a summer, and then you know the daylight's gone the rest of the year up there, and now I'm sitting around. And it's like what am I gonna do? Like I'm gonna go do some biohacking, like fucking for what? Like I'm just gonna end up right back into this spot, you know, and you can't get away from it. Like go to a restaurant in fucking Anchorage, Alaska, and try not to read the personality type of the damn waitress. You're like, oh my god. So it's just something that I can't get away from, and then just feel a responsibility to get it to a point to where it can be scalable, where it can be a tool that can be out of the Dave and Shan show, and to where it can be in the hands of people that can do stuff with it. Even though there'll be a lot of bad use with it, of course, sure. But like that's more of why I want to equip the good guys, or you know, the good people, or scientific people, positive people, to be able to have the ability to really use this and scale this, because you're looking at, in my opinion, just the code, the personality code of human psychology. Where you look at the DSM-5, and it just reminds me of the Winchester Mystery House, just a bunch of added on shit that even people that use the DSM-5 or DSM-6 or whatever, like they still are like, this thing is just a stack of shit. Like but they don't know what else to do. Just like layers
Totally.
of layers of layers of stuff. And like there's so much good stuff in there. Like it's all observable patterns, but fucking Karen, who's writing half the thing, like is she just interpreting it through her fucked up functions? So everything's getting askewed and stacked up, and it's hard to tell what side is up, and you're weird if you're not the same as me, So it's just like there's not a fractal. There's not a nice, clean, mathematical, balanced, scientific approach to it. And like, and speaking of, you see all these other great, scientific arenas, and then they all got their shit together. Like their AI's taken off. Like everybody's got their shit together. Like the ship is sailing. We're going into the future, and psychology is still like fucking putting leeches on your hands. Like they're still in the 1700s. It's like fucking witchcraft, DSM-5 shit. Just like you're not seeing the results. You're not being like, you know what? I went to my counselor and I went to my psychologist and I really worked some shit out. You don't hear about that ever. All you hear is, well, they got me on some more drugs. And then you look at their psychologist and they look more crazy than the fucking friend you're talking to, So it's just a lot of work that needs to be done. And then just for myself, really, ultimately, in my mid-30s, I just decided and chose that this is what I'm going to tie my name to. There's my flex, my demon flex, tie my name to, tie my responsibility to. Because knowing I had to get down to that, like have all the reasons and shit like that, but it's just also like this is something that I have to choose, that this is what I want to put my life to, So I mean, ultimately, that's what I got to stand on if shit comes to shove.
So like, I'm gonna set you up before I go to the restroom because I drank too much water.
All
I've
right.
had 3 beverages here. But the big question for you that the people want to know, but more so, I think it's good for you to know for yourself, is Dave, what are your vision, mission, and values for ops or life? Wherever you want to go with that. Yep.
Sure. Want me to take it away while you take a break? Oh, he's gone. So the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is creating a team, creating people that can be here, work here, and be able to type people at scale. Most likely be able to use AI as a tool to really get at scale. It's great to learn how to type because it is one of the most self-healing, self-realization things to do. That allows you to kind of work with the team and know everybody else. So it's kind of like, even though AI, I'm sure, will be able to take over the typing business at scale, it's still a really good thing for people to learn how to do, because it's 2 years of fucking hell of really having to face and wrestle with your own demons, as well as like be able to sit down at a table every single day and work with somebody and not screw it up and not be late. And like, it's the greatest self-growth thing. Anyways, so from there, then getting it down to profiles, getting it down to where there are 512 profiles, or however the profiles end up being. I don't know if the profile, very 23andMe like. And so just seeing that in the future, there'll be kids that can, or really, this seems to be the best when people are kind of hitting midlife crisis, even though a lot of kids in their 20s will kind of want to know this stuff, even though this isn't really the best thing for kids in their 20s, because it's kind of like, here's how you're going to fuck your life up. And they're 21. They're like, no, I'm not. And you're like, oh, okay, well, see you when you're 39. So there's kind of that, a little bit of a challenge. So I think the way I've kind of seen it is long-term, there's going to be kind of an ops business split a little bit, where there'll be slightly more watered down profiles for the average person. So it's kind of like, how old are you? I'm 21. Like, okay, so here, why don't you start with this? So I started with something for a younger person to be able to get into, like, hey, Johnny, who's going off to college, here's what your strengths are, and here's what's a little challenging for you. So just kind of an easy pitch profile for somebody starting off in their early 20s, and then down below there'll be fine print of like, hey, if you want to know more, little Johnny, come this way. And then there'll be levels of the profiles of like, how far down do you want to go? If you're in your mid 40s and you're hitting midlife crisis and you're suicidal and you've caused a wreck of your life, okay, so now we've got a lot more we can fucking show you and tell you and talk about. But seeing right now, it's kind of, it's not ideal. Just Dave and Shan, like, hey, and then we learned this, and then we learned this, and like, for the kids watching, like sometimes that's way too much or way too little. Like, start to kind of get profiles that can kind of split depending on the person's time in life, because you're really talking about, and AI is such a partnering science to this or whatever, or part kind of very parallel kind of universe to this op stuff, because you're looking at being able to like get down data of like, here, statistically, this is what you're going, here you go, kid, this is what you're going to figure out by 80, largely is what you're telling them, you know, with all of your midlife crises and your breakups and how and why you're going to get fired and your health issues, which is a lot of like what 23andMe has to deal with. They're like, oh, by the way, you're racist and you're Italian and your toe's going to fall off and you have cancer. Here you go. And you're like, but it says that I don't like cilantro. How'd you know that? Like it's hard information for people to process and deal with. So that'll be a very large, that I don't feel too bad about, because that I can kick over to the business department, because now you're just dealing with marketing and sales, and that's where I feel a little bit more comfortable, you know, that world of like, you know, getting that stable, you know, watching your price, your profits, how many people are complaining, how many people are happy, kind of getting all that shit settled out as just kind of a normal business. But then there'll be the profiles that just keep going into the darkness, where you can get all the way down into crime. And that's now where you're talking with law enforcement, where that's going to be, the law enforcement sector is definitely going to be the most interested in what we have here, because that's, again, it's really cute and cool to know who you're probably going to date and what kind of car you like and the clothes you get and the hair you do and all that cool, like, wow, how did you know that about me? There's a bunch of that shit. But then it's all the way down into the darkness of like motivations of you know, crime and stuff like that. So just seeing that, like, that creates a very large spectrum of business, where you have anywhere from like the young 21-year-old kid who's setting off in life and they kind of want to know what their strengths and weaknesses are, to the middle-aged person, midlife crisis, all the way over to dealing with law enforcement, where they're trying to like catch criminals and murderers and stuff like that. So that being kind of the standard of how and why we're building our systems now, it's like, okay, we're going to have to be able to take care of a lot of young people that have a bunch of dumb questions, and or middle-aged people. And then we're also going to have to be able to like fly to Chicago and meet with the FBI. So, you know, get a suit and don't be afraid to get a passport and shit like that. Like, there's a lot of other harder things to do. So that's kind of where I'm seeing it going. The last thing that I would throw in there as well, kind of a personal FI, is I've always kind of pictured along the way in there is having like physical meetups. Like I'm not a big fan of the online meetups. I've done lots of them, not so much in the personality world, but like, you know, I've been doing the online thing since 2004, you know, so I've been online longer than everybody. And then also done the forums, and just really got burnt out by them, honestly, just thousands and thousands of hours and posts on forums and online shit back before it was cool or whatever. So just seeing the limitations of an online community, which is totally better than nothing. It's totally great. But nothing compared to like having the physical presence of having friends in town. And whenever I've seen that happen, I'm like, that's a big goal I really want to do, is where you'll see the businesses that'll kind of start online, and then they'll start to have their physical meetups. And then when they actually branch out and they start having them in major cities and stuff like that, that's what I feel like, well, that's when you're really going. So it's always been a goal for me personally that I want to be able to create. This is where I would be actually putting in my decider. The other stuff, like the profiles, I don't really have a choice. I'm going to have dumbed down, watered down profiles for the fucking masses. That's, everybody wins. Everybody out there, you win. I'll get the dumb ones. I'll get the nice, I'll get the lie to you ones. I'll get the lie to your mom ones. I promise. Ding, ding, ding. It'll be so dumb. You'll all fucking love it. So there you go. We'll do that. And then we'll have the more serious ones, and then we'll have the crime ones. So that I feel like there's no choice. But then the thing that I do feel like I want to choose is having a physical place where people can, especially the younger people, of like have a place where you could go once a week and meet up and discuss these ideas and growth. Because a lot of the dumb kids, that's what the journey is. You know, I was a dumb kid, you know, and it's like me especially, but it's just like how you kind of learn is fumbling around with other idiots and having stupid arguments and causing drama and causing, like, so I get it, you know, and like what I tell a lot of people that'll get upset is like, hey, you got to look at like, you know, sometimes it takes 7 years before some shithead becomes kind of okay. And then 7 years later, because I've met a lot of people that I've completely written off, and then you meet them years later and they're doing just really, really good. You're like, okay, that kind of breaks my brain, you know? So having something, I feel like there's a huge void to have kind of a good old days of physical presence where people could meet, you know? So that's kind of my large goal or value mission.
Yeah, what's good old days for you is that's really beautiful, and thanks for sharing all that. I hope everyone heard and watched that part, because it is important, I think, Dave, for you to get something out of it in your FI, not just because like ops is kind of the ultimate observer game. And what you and Shan and the team have done is like create this typing game thing where people put on their dating profile, oh, I like to people watch. And
Yeah,
you've kind of made a profession out of people watching. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, you think you like people watching? All right, hold my beer. And you're like people watching the shit out of people in terms of like actually seeing them is like, hey, this is this person's story. Guess what they're about to say next? You know, like sitting on a
Right.
park bench, just like observing people and all that. But like, so that was like the ultimate like kind of observer game. But then like there's this other decider game where it's like, hey, can we have a meetup where people don't go freaking crazy or
Yeah,
anything?
right.
And mob you as, you know, oh, we all love Dave or we want his attention or something. And you know, can we have like an actual meetup where it's actually fun, enjoyable, spread out, and like people are enjoying each other too, not just let's say the most interesting people at the meetup, right? Like
Right.
actually have people going through their journey, sharing it with each other. And, you know, for me, let me just say, because in the past year, I've been able to go to some meetups. I've been able to go to the Netherlands, to
Yeah,
London,
right.
to New York, and California, you know. And so there are meetups out there, and they're awesome. But I could totally see that if Dave was there, like, you know, you'd need some bouncers or some
Yeah,
okay,
right.
okay. Maybe that's me also speaking my saviors, but you
No,
know, a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit. Um, but I do think that the community would be able to set that up for you if that's the direction you want to go to. But yeah, there's obviously a list of things. But when that FI gets to the point where you want to make that happen, I think that is a possibility. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We've done local ones, and we're going to be starting them back up here, local, just small and local. But yeah, what I'm talking about long term, you know, and then long after I'm gone as well, is like I'm talking about like regular ones. You know, I know people throw the word cult in here with us, and this would be like, it's like remember the old days with like church, where it's like you'd go to church on Sunday, and it's like as long as you could suffer through the hour and a half message and all the singing and all the bullshit, then it's like, oh, finally the donuts and hanging out with people and meeting girls and going out and having friends, and like you have the best times and experiences as a young person going to church because there's other people that are somewhat non-negative, positive, you know, and there was like a community, and then, like it's so funny that we have to like talk about this because like go any like on the timeline of human history, like scroll anywhere and tell them like, yeah, you know, like meeting together physically and hanging out and eating and they're like, what are you talking about? Like normal life? Like, where the hell do you guys live? Like, oh, we live in these, we have phones and we just talk to each other on the phone. Like, what the hell happened to the human race? And like, you really see it suffering where there's not the normal human interaction, the normal consistency. But part of that is the structure, the OI structure that has to be built. Cause yeah, you've got to get something consistent. Otherwise, it's just somebody jumps in, jumps out, and then there's not the kids need structure, you know, because a lot of kids their homes are. I used to think my parents are bad, and then I met 10,000 other people's parents. God, my parents are fucking angels. Like people out there have it really bad. Like, and they don't even know how bad they have it because all their friends and family are so fucked up. But like when you look at it socially, like what a kid needs to develop and like have a healthy chance in life, like people are not, they're not getting the bare minimum. Like it's really bad out there for a lot of people, you know? So like
oh yeah,
creating a structure to where it's like, here is a place, here is a physical meeting place where kids can go and there's structure and stability. But then you're in with all the challenges, like all the observer challenges. Now you got to make sure the staff isn't abusing people over time. You got to have a maintenance guy, you got to have security guards, you got to have, on and on it goes. So it's a pretty big the challenges that I have is like, it's like here we are down here on like internet business, and then like the next jump is like 50 miles up. There's not a lot of like we're seeing that with hiring. Like that was I don't want to say it was a surprise, but it was like when you see the detail of how sophisticated it is to get a hiring thing going. It's not you're like, okay, like you're actually seeing how hard it really is. It's not stuck. It's just like, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot more than it's like an observer moment, like when you see the SE of what you kind of, and I knew. So just seeing that going from like a once in a while meetup where we meet at Denny's to like creating a structure that kids can count on over time. Get one in Portland, one in Seattle, start branching out from there. It's a really large big jump, but I don't really have anything else to do. You know, I'm only 45. I got a lot of years ahead of me, and it's why really learning to like compact the fundamentals and the foundations. And it's what Michael and I've been working on a lot. He's really getting up to speed of like if you want to go up, just here's a quick lesson. This is a big thing that him and I have really been processing. So you look at this Maslow's pyramid, and you think like, oh, this is like we've had problems with hiring everybody. They're like, oh, I know the answer, you idiots. Just run to the top. Here's my app. Let's just do the fancy shit. We're like, God damn, fucking everybody. So everybody like runs to the top, and then you just slide back down, you know, because their basics aren't getting done. They can't pay their bills. They're not healthy. They slept in. Just all their low-rented shit's falling apart. So they run up, they touch the rim, they do something amazing once, and then they cry and fall apart and slide back down. You're like, okay, so what about next month? I'm like, we're only gonna do this for that one weekend. You were awesome. Like they're just not thinking it long term, right? So it's like to move up. What I'm seeing, if you look at things in this light, it makes so much sense. It's like you're never actually moving. You're just like compacting. You're like pressing down your lower ended shit, which then like raises your floor. So it's not like you're climbing up. It's like you're just sitting here. Like all I'm doing is my daily shit. All I'm doing is my daily shit. And you're just doing it and doing it and doing it. You're doing it right. You're doing it to perfection. You're doing the uploads, the thumbnails, the editing, all the hard stuff that nobody wants to do. It takes fucking hours. And then it's just creating this foundation that's compacting down. And then pretty soon you meet somebody and they're looking up at you and you're like, well, how the hell did I, like, oh, well, what I have on autopilot is I can get up and I can record and I can edit and I can make lunch and I can do that. Like all these things that were impossible for me to do 10 years ago that were so hard. Now I just do them to relax and they're on autopilot, and that you get that foundation. And so it's like, oh, to go up, it's what habits, what low-rented things can I do to perfection, put down the 10,000 hours. So you can't fall any farther than that. You'll hear like the rich guys talk about that. The guys that make like multi-millions, they're like, if you take everything away, I'm unable to not make $1 million in 6 months. They're like, my brain just doesn't know how to not do that. Like how high they've gotten their foundation through all that hard work, you know? So
Yeah.
when I look at this, I don't look up. I don't look up like, oh, someday I'm going to get way up there. Somehow I'm going to trick everybody and I'm going to work with the FBI. Someday I'm going to trick the universe and I'm going to have a meetup in every major city. Someday you'll see I'm going to sneak through and do it. It's like, no, I just know if I keep doing this, that it starts to build. And I'm starting to see, like we're seeing with the AI, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing that Kurzweil thing where you're just Mr. Beast for 10 years, just doing fucking almost nothing. And then you're like, I'm starting to see a couple of years out, like, oh, I'm starting to see a little bit of, you know, that as a possibility where it starts to compound. Not this month, not next month, probably not the next 6 months, but in the next couple of years, and seeing it speeding up.
Yeah.
You know.
So speaking for myself, at least, like this message that you have, that it's kind of just a steady growth, right? This is something that I think that for, like, let's say number ones, it would be really good to have that humility and actually just be responsible doing all the things. There's a lot of jobs, a lot of need out there. Try to help somebody out and, you know, raise that bottom so you could have that groundswell later. And that steady growth is better than showing up, you know, in a profound big way that once every, you know, few months.
Right.
And what I wanted to say is the business stuff, like it seems like there is a lot of business opportunity with a thing like objective personality.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people like kind of dabbling in things here and there. There's a number of people in the community who are, you know, let's say offering things like, you know, coaching or typing. You know, I could mention some names here, but in case their services change, I won't. But like there's things like CRG. Yeah, if I have to go down the list, I might have to say everybody. But there are people, right? There's business opportunity, right?
I believe you.
So, how do you see this? Because like I know people kind of come to you maybe asking for permission, like, hey, can I do this? Like even for me, right? I'm like, hey, is it bad if I, you know, try something, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, people creating their own tests, their own things, and they kind of separate themselves as like, hey, we're not Dave and Shan. we're not as accurate as them, but can you, you know, do you need help in this area that has something to do with OPS? Like whether it is going to the FBI themselves or going to corporations or going to, you know, whatever, helping people personally, and offering their services somehow, like doing that type of work. What do you say to those people out there in the world who are trying to use ops in a business context like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So for me, I'm really excited about it. So Shani will have a slightly different view than me. She's not as excited as I am. She won't say yes as enthusiastically as I will, even though she'll still say yes. But it's like for me, I just look at it like an unlimited market share. So it's not like I'll ever be able to get to half of the business opportunities or even 5% of the business opportunities when it comes to something like this. And so to me, it's like I really put it back on myself. It's like as much as I want, I am welcome to go consume and go take and do whatever it is that I want. And I'm not. There's nothing I'm not getting because somebody stopped me. Like that doesn't have anything to do with anything, you know. So to me, I also look at it as like I feel like I have way more than enough, and so I feel very happy and full, as well as like there's endless opportunities and endless growth, especially in the area that I'm specializing in, because what I'm focusing on is something that nobody can take away, like AI or somebody else's business. Like, no, I'm really building the brand of the person of Dave Power. So it's like in the next 10, 15 years, like especially with AI and all that kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, everybody's going to have the fucking code. Everybody's going to be able to type everybody. You know, just do it on your fucking smartphone or whatever. Like, how cool would it be is like if every video you ever watch is like their little type just scroll down at the bottom because like the fucking computer just types everybody. Okay, great. Now what? Now what? You created an app that types everybody, and you use ChatGPT, and now you can type everybody, right? So it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's like,
Yeah.
so you did it. Now what? Now you go tell your mom, like, hey, I typed you. I made an app, and here's what type you are. They're like, great. What the hell all these letters mean? Oh, right. Hold on. Let me write something out here. It means this. Great. I have a million questions, and I don't believe it. Okay, hold on. Let me get a profile. Oh, now you're getting profiles. Okay, so now you go get all the bunch of profiles. Have a AI write the profiles too. Okay, so now you type somebody, and then you get the profiles, and then they're still like, so it's like real quick. It just goes to the next thing. That they're still going to be like, all right, call the person in here that knows what the hell this is. Well, that's going to be me. I'm going to be the one that's like,
There you
no,
go.
I'm the one that sat through thousands and thousands and thousands of client fucking videos, watched all of them on as fast speed as I possibly fucking can, but still watched all of them and have the nuances downloaded of people's stories and psychology. And so it's like, it's not something that can be taken away because you out-apped me or outpriced me or whatever. There's people are always going to want to talk to the person that has that in their soul, even if the AI does it better. You know, people are still going to want to talk to the person, you know, the person of value and the person that can show up and be positive and all that. So there's always, and I think more so as well. I think as the next 20 years become more competition of, well, I can do that better than you and I can do it digitally. It's like, well, fuck, they really can. So I think it's even more to be doubling down on the NF aspect of sales, of like, who are you as a person? There's gonna be a lot of people that stay in business. Just real quick, if you think about it like truckers or whatever, like say there's some client who's using Johnny's Trucking or whatever. They're like, hey, this company came in and offered to do it with an automated truck in 10 years. Say it's 10 years from now. And they're like, no, we're going to stay with Larry. I mean, he comes over on the weekends. He's friends with my kids and we have lunch with him. And I know he's 10% more, but no, we're going to just keep this person because of, you know, the relationships are still there, you know, not to be fighting for the F in the world of all the T, you know? So anyways,
Yeah.
I have like miles of FI foundations down of like, no, I'm going to be just fine.
Everything you just said, like I love it. Yeah, continue. You had another
The
one?
TE side of it is I
Yeah.
do actually care about people a little bit, and one of the biggest thing, like favorite blankie syndrome, it's like I love business as much as I just complain about it constantly, but like that's how I get it out. It's just like I am a huge complainer if you ever get to know me in real life. But then I have a thing of like I'm gonna complain and then I'm gonna get a sensor upgrade. So it's like complain and then I find a solution. But I let that shit
Complaining
go,
is a
man.
feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
That's what I'm learning. Like, by the way, as a one or whatever, like I don't let myself complain enough.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just hide that shit. They're like, Habib, you got everything together, right? It's like, oh, what did I do? Did I flex too hard that people think everything is perfect? Like shit.
Right.
So that's kind of a, you know, and that's, you're getting out that negativity on business, but guess what? You love it.
Yeah, and then
You know you love it.
I'm looking. I demand that I get the progress and the result. I think it's the responsibility drive or whatever. And if I got to make a fucking fool of myself, I don't care. I just want to walk away at the end of the day with I got ahead on the thing, you know? So yeah, I'll throw myself under the bus or complain or be a bitch or whatever I got to do. With the favorite blankie of the tribe, it's like for me, as much as I complain about business and stuff like that, to me, there's a brotherhood, a closeness. I don't know any deeper way to connect with somebody than they got a fucking lemonade stand or, you know, they got a wood shop business online, you know? And so it's like, cause then they're in the same arena. So whenever I personally hear somebody, yourself or friends from the community, like, hey, I'm thinking of, like, for me, I'm like, oh, we're going to be best friends. We're going to have a connection of like, you're now going to be in the same arena that I'm in. And then we can call each other and complain about customers and fucking upload systems and shit like that. Like, this is going to be fucking great. So, because it's also true of like nothing, and I've seen this with my buddy Michael here, nothing will like take you on that growth experience than getting in the arena with something like business or entrepreneurship or dealing with clients and customers where you now have to be the grown up, you know? And so I think it's fucking great, you know?
I love
And then
it.
just last
By
point
the
too.
way, oh yeah, go ahead.
Last point, as also I know, and I saw this in the RC world, because I have played this game before when we were in our big popular days in the RC world. Like, there's a lot of people that would spawn off of us or whatever. And what I saw real quick is like, it just comes back around to you. Like at first I was like, oh shit, they're stealing our stuff, competition. And I'm like, I couldn't fight them. So I just like, I don't know, I guess I'll just befriend them. And I ended up stealing so much more back from them than they ever stole from me. Cause it's like, if you go start your business, Habib, right? Say it's 10 years from now and you've got a better deck of cards of business than I do, you know, chances are you do, you know, over the next 10 years. And then you end up like, I'm stuck doing all this fucking number two shit and I'm buried and moving slow. And you're like, in 10 fucking years, you get way up there and you're doing whatever. What are you going to do? Not talk to me? It's only going to come back to me where you're like, hey, Dave, you said you were talking about this or you wanted to meet somebody or whatever. Like, as long as you and I are still friends, then that positivity just comes back to me, you know? And that's what I've just seen in real life.
So I'll say this part quick: the abundance versus scarcity mindset. I love your position on it when it comes to this stuff, the business. You're thinking more abundant, and for me, like, yes, totally. Like, if I'm in the position where you were in when you were in LA, when you're down and out, who helped you? The number fours, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I need everybody's fucking help. Holy shit. Like, I need the fours, I need the threes, I need the twos, I need the ones. I need fucking everybody. I'll take it. I'm also TE savior, right? I'll fucking use whatever the hell you got. And also, my FI is I will help you back. I won't forget any of this shit. You know,
Right.
like, this is what a friend is to me. When other people talk about friendship, it's different. I don't want to, you know, mess with that. But like, for me, if you are ever my friend, you're always my friend.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because I have such scarcity on that resource.
Yeah.
I
Right.
have so few fucking friends that, like, hey, Dave helped me out like 10 years later, 50 years later, I'll remember that shit.
It's like FI on steroids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, man. I see that in Shan. That's really good. That's really good, man. Yeah, yeah. And somebody that doesn't do that, it's like you would want to be friends with them anyways. You know, like somebody who you're friends with, you help out, and they don't come back around and help you out. They're like, okay, then they're doing that to other people in their life as well. That person's on the way down. I'm glad I'm not friends with them anyways.
Yeah. It's so weird though. Like, for me, like, the limitation for me that I'm trying to work through is like, damn, like, I want to help people out, but it's just like, shit, like, my one goals, like, that's the thing I don't want to compromise. Like, even this interview, I would fucking love to entertain a lot of these comments and questions or whatever. But I'm like, shit, like, I need to make sure that this interview goes well. And the only way I can guarantee it is by going to my freaking list of topics and like going from there, because I don't know what's in the comment section, and that's going to distract me. And it's like, it almost feels like an introverted, like, social type, like the
Yeah, yeah,
ones and the threes.
yeah. Right.
And I'm like, ah, shit, like, you know, it's not that I don't love people, it's that I'm not making time for that. Like, I'm supposed to do the thing, pull people's comments, and I will if we have time at the end.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Let's do it if we have time. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, but yeah, it's just like, what a friend means to me is like, I had to show up for you big. And honestly, people are like, Habib, you didn't need to do that. Like, I end up buying too expensive gifts for people. and it's like, hey, you didn't need to do that. Like, hey, just show up. That's enough.
Yeah.
Like,
No, what
I
you're
show up
saying
too
is
big, and yeah,
what
yeah,
you're saying is reminded of what Freud said something about, like this concept that he had that I've taken away, where it's like we all have the same amount of energy. So if something is in a demon state, it's like you still have the same, and say you were saver DI as well, so say you were DI number one, like, and an IP, like there's still the same amount of friends energy that the rest of us have, or people that have savior friends, that just that people are sharing it extrovertedly. Like, you see somebody who's like savior FE, it's just like they do have a harder time being there for you 10 years from now and really being that close deep, because they're friends to everybody. So what you're describing is I'll see that in Shanny, I'll see that in others, where to me, I like it means a lot to me, where I'm like, if this person is demon friends, and I almost like make a game out of it, like, can I be like one of their 3 friends? Because I know if I can get in there, then I'm a friend for life, and that friend and that person is a powerful person. Like, to me, it's a really it's one of the most valuable things that I have, of like, see this person over here? It's like, yeah, that person, like, yeah, we're friends. Like, how the hell did you become friends with that person? It's like, oh, locked in for life. So yeah, man, I really hear you. I really connect. It's like a deep FI on steroids, and all the FEs are laughing at us.
yeah. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Holy shit. You're right. Okay. So just a few other ones that I want to make sure to get to before we get to like questions was, I mean, we already kind of talked about AI, the fast typing one. So that's, AI could type people quick. All right, now what? I love that kind of vibe from you on that. We talked about like market opportunities. We didn't get into the nihilism part. We could do that because I hear this from all the NIFIs. I mean, this is NF sleep, but also
Yeah.
there's like kind of this Donald Hoffman aspect to it, where it's like, and I love that video that you did with him, or whatever, of him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, hey, like there's the NTP shit, and I needed, by the way, to develop some love for my own Quadra, because it's like, hey, the other side of the NTP shit where you figured everything the fuck out is like the Goggins shit, like fucking goals, Jocko, like responsible,
Right.
like heading towards something, like doing shit in actual reality,
Monkey
like
functions.
yeah, the monkey function. So like, how do you see nihilism and Hoffman with the perspective of the NTP versus uh, SFP functions? Yeah,
Yeah. I'm thankful that I'm not full NT. I'm thankful that I got a touch of NT, because I do see the NTs. They have a lot to deal with. Like, if you really look at people that way, like if I look at your coins or whatever, like, oh, you're double activated consume. That must be a lot to deal with trying to stay on track or whatever. Like, to be able to kind of step into that. I know for me, my abusive one seems to be the blast. Like, that's the one I feel like I get bullied by my blast. I feel, oh, God, just this morning, like Cody and I have this time where we do video games together. So like the poor bastard is like trying to get me set up on where I can play on my computer and then on his computer, so we can play together in the arena thing. And like just the amount of triggering I get just trying to work through signing up for fucking Roblox or whatever, and it's like, why do I have like, and then he's like, yay, and we got it all set, or he got it all set up. Then I'm like faking having a good time, and then he goes to school, and I'm like, why am I so drained? Like, why am I so upset? Like, what is so wrong? And it's just like the blast is like just a bully, just aggravating me on the inefficiency of the sensory or consume. I was like trying to analyze, like, what the hell is wrong with me, or this, not me, this blast beast, And so like, when I can see my abuser, that strong extroverted blast, I'll think about that. I'll leverage that of like, oh, so that's what a fucking NTP must be going through, where they're just like, blah, 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 the universe and the concept, blah, blah, blah. Like, God, how the hell do you turn that shit off? So it's as bad as I don't have it compared to people that really have it. I really have a lot of sympathy for them, because you just tell them like, oh man, just go relax, just go down to the frog pond and throw rocks at frogs and feel better. Like, no, that's what I do. That's what I can do to escape the NT. They can't escape the NT. So for some people, I know it's really, really hard, and they can't stop thinking about it, and they can't stop going down that road. But in the end, the universe doesn't seem to care whether it's easy for you to set up a video game with your son or not. Fucking do it, and make it look easy. Somehow you got to get through it. And that's what I saw with Donald Hoffman, who's like, super Mr. Smart, he's still struggling his way through it, still pushing his way through it, which is going to be a lot harder for him. But it feels to be, kind of answer the question, it feels like the nihilism chapter, nihilism, suicide, the bottom of the hero's journey, the pit down there, that's kind of it's kind of Jamie Lee Curtis. You gotta kind of get an immunity to that, meaning Jamie Lee Curtis, she's really good. She's like, it was on this day, on this year, and we'll see that in the hero's journey that people will point to. When I was 47 years old, when I was 32 years old, they can point to a time where they were down on the bottom, where they had the worst of it. I'm sure Donald Hoffman has a point in time as well, even though he's still like, that's another thing. It's like, it's not like you're in and you're out. Like, you're still like getting slightly better over time, even though you can look back to of that one time in 1996, that was definitely the low point. So, but it feels like an immunity, like a vaccine immunity, that you've got to be able to develop those antibodies to meaninglessness, and you're just a robot, you're just a code. That's after you fall out of God's not real. So that's another huge one. You come out of that one, and then you stumble around, and then you start to fall into, what's the point of anything? Why should I even live? And it's like, yeah, like it's a chapter that we all got to get through. You got to get through, and you have to be able to develop your own self-generating antibodies and immunities to that. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where, like, stealing it from the next guy doesn't work. It is definitely something that you got to go through it your own self, have the pressure on your own self. And then at the end, you now sound like a jackass, like everybody else, where you're like, I just decided that this is going to be mine. And you just have some silly, stupid story that you finally were able to put together your own self at the pit of hell to get yourself out. And it makes no sense, and the next guy who's going through is like, that's not going to help me. You're like, yeah, but this helps me, and I believe it. Because you just get so desperate. You're like, I'm just so tired of living down here. I'll just settle for this. And then,
Go ahead.
Last point. Then the next years are like, well, let me now start to make this true. I'm going to create this new worldview that I'm going to be the ops guy and do ops churches, and I'm going to find meaning in that and make it positive, and I'll show you. You just create some fucking story that corresponds with reality enough that you could actually do that and pull it off. Then the last trick is, like, at the end of the day, when you actually start to make progress, you didn't have to remember to stop and go, this is meaningful. This is what I choose to do. Because it's not like your body's not naturally in sync. Like they say, like some people have a hard time where, like, they're hungry to my belly is full ratio is all fucked up, and they either got to get a surgery or a chemical balance. Like their gauges are off. It's a real thing. For most of us, it's like, oh, I'm hungry, I need to eat this amount, and then you eat it, and then you feel full. And like, some people, they don't have that. Their gauges are all whacked off. And so it's like, you can do a lot of really great stuff in life, and you would think your body would tell you you're doing great, but your gauges could be all fucked up, and you really could be doing good. And you have to stop and be like, hey, I did good today. According to the goals, according to objectivity, according to the team, according to the outside results, I did good today, even though my body doesn't feel it. You got to, like, be able to get yourself to be okay with that, train that,
Yeah. And what I'm seeing is, like, fuck the VR goggles or headset. It is what we got. This is what we got. 2023. This is it. You're here. You're present. You're in the now. What have you fucking done today? You're playing a video game. So, like,
yeah, right.
So what if this is, playing a video game with your son is the measurement? Is like, can I do that? Can my consume last ass do that? Play a video game and have some fucking fun with my family. Oh, right. Shit. Like, right. While running a business. Oh, fuck, that's a tall order. Like, yeah, right. That's and what I was gonna mention with some of this nihilism stuff is, like, hey, like, own your story. Like, the other side of the NTP is that Goggin side, right? And I got some of that in me, maybe not double masculine sleep, but that's fine. But it's about this, like, calloused mind that he talks about, right? Like, developing that. And it's really owning your story. The stuff this guy is sharing in his most recent book, his audiobook, he brings his mother on, and she's been through shit. Like, he's been through a lot. And his mother on the other side. And then his mother's kind of, like, inspired by him from the first book. Anyway, so they went through freaking hell, and they're owning that. And we all have to do that for our own story. Not everyone has that trauma. Well, everyone has some kind of trauma, and you don't go comparing your story to other people.
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
sure, some people out there have it worse. Dave, I know, like, your parents, you have your opinion of them compared to the spectrum now that you've seen the spectrum, but like, hey, own it still, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right,
you
right.
still went through stuff. This is my consume advice is just like, hey, like, own your like, give respect to your own FI
Right.
experience. Like, even if you're born into freaking royalty, like, own that shit. Even with the silver spoon, like, own that shit. Like Trump, do you think he can feel sorry for himself? Everyone's out there telling him like freaking like, hey, you gave $1 million loan or whatever from your dad. You think he allows himself to feel sorry for himself? If he did, maybe it wouldn't be this way. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
like, just own your shit, own your story, develop that callous mind, know that things were hard for you, but you got over it, and own every step of what you've been able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good,
Um,
man. That's really good because some of the hardest stuff to go through is where it's subjective, where you're going through hell. People be going through hell, and like all their friends and family are like, "That's not hard. That I went through way worse." So they're like, "Well, I'm going through hell, and I can't even communicate to anybody because nobody believes that this is actually the hardest thing in the world for me." That's where these function stuff does. I feel like it helps a lot. Like if you look at what some INFP is going through, even though that'd be easy for me, you could be like, whoa, that would be like setting up a video. Wait, oh my God, you're getting tortured to death. This has got to be the hardest thing in the world for you. And you can like have empathy. But yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying of like, yeah, even tough guy me, I got to be able to do that for myself. Like, look, God damn it. Setting up a video game really is the most triggering thing for me. Okay, there, I fucking said it out loud. I can't think of anything harder that brings more pain through my fucking bloodstream than trying to log into fucking Roblox and actually owning
and
that.
yeah, you're allowed for that to be your story. Sure, it's going to
Yeah.
sound ridiculous out of context, but you know what? I'm
That's
here.
what TikTok's for.
Whoever messes with you on your story on that, because like,
Right. Totally.
you're fucking allowed to have that story, right?
Right.
So the other thing is like, so the real question, I really like, my favorite FI question that I want to ask, and I know I'm doing horribly on time,
No,
but
doing great, man. Doing great.
so theory versus practice. This meant a lot to me as someone who is fucking NT last, right? And so like for me, it's like I love to get into I have a master's degree in computer science, right? Like fucking like I can learn some theories here and there, and got good at the typing game, whatever. But
Yeah,
like
sure did. Yeah.
the point is, what I've found for myself is like, don't just do the fucking NT stuff. Like, go
Yeah.
practice it, go put it to the test, right? Don't
Yeah.
just go to school, go into the fucking business world and put things into reality, do something, change someone's fucking life, or just help a little bit, whatever you can do, and that counts for a lot.
Yeah.
So whatever that practice is, go and do that. So like, what does theory versus practice mean to you in terms of actually making use of this personality theory shit? They watch 1,000 videos. What do they fucking do? And maybe we can combine it with a little bit of this other question of, what are your biggest hopes for someone who comes across this system?
Yeah. That's really good. I'm just seeing how fucking DI I really am. Well, what I do, and part of this is a little bit of a competitive nature, I guess. What I do is I just love to cheat. I can't get enough of cheating. Like if I can figure out the rules, I'm like, how do I cheat? Can I just steal that at night when they're sleeping? Like what do I got to do? So it's like for me when I try to figure out like, oh, so this is like an in the arena game. This is you figure out the shit and then you got to go apply it in the field in like sports or college or war or business. And for me, it was just like watching Cody go to jujitsu. It was just 1 hour twice a week. And you're like, well, the kid who's doing it 3 hours, 6 days a week is going to kick the shit out of you. Like, how do you do it more, And so what I started to see is like people will be like, yes, I went on a road trip for my practice, and that was 3 summers ago. I'm like, fuck that. I'm doing it over fucking breakfast. I'm going to do it on the chores, how I set up my bathroom, how I set up my bedroom, how I interact with the team, how I interact with the family. Like setting up the fucking video games in the morning with Cody, like it was in a conscious thing of like, how do I continue to have slight progress in Cody's life and my relationship with him in the tech stuff? So it's like, it's not just happening willy-nilly. It's like I'm trying to purposely cheat by going, I'm going to just steal up all the base hits. It's just kind of where I've honestly just put everything. So I'm not looking for the big AI swing or go get the big corporate gig or get, millions of views on YouTube or any of the big shit. Like that stuff will come over time. A lot of times when it does show up, you're like, you better fucking be ready. So I'm just constantly looking at, and I love like what a part this like a consume last moment. Like when I heard Jordan Peterson talk about like cleaning the room and stuff like that, I'm like, that's the shit I've always been saying. Like I could tell people like I say that. Like, no, you said that because he says that. No, I said that, and then he said that. But it's like there'll be things, and I've seen Gary Vee, he'll do stuff where it's like he'll be teaching stuff that I already figured out before I ever heard somebody like that say that or whatever. Anyways, I'm just bragging about my own stupid self. But like the Jordan Peterson thing that he is saying about like cleaning your room and making your bed. By the way, from randomly, I don't know why, but I don't make my bed. I do like everything else except for literally that sensor. But like every single thing else, it's like what he's saying of like make it a job, make it a task, make it an exercise on the smallest little things. Because I guess what I'm trying to say is like what I'm seeing in reality is by working on a bunch of little things, a little base hits, it does equal up more by the end of the year of like doing one thing that's a really big thing. It's just like a workout. Like I did one workout for 1 week once a year versus the guy that does 10 minutes every single day. The guy that does 10 minutes every single day is going to beat the guy who just does one workout every once in a while, So anyways, what to answer your question, like the people like getting into this, the biggest thing that I would hope is they'd be able to see north and south, be able to see which side is up. If I were to make this as simple as possible, the biggest hope I would have for people is to know 2 things about your type. From what I'm seeing in the data, at the end of the day, whether you're consume sleep play or consume play sleep doesn't really seem to matter. If you're double feminine or audio doesn't really seem to matter. The biggest things to look for from what I'm seeing, what I use in my own life when it comes to the code is 2 things. It's are you an observer or a decider? And then an introvert and an extrovert. And so over the next week, if you want to study this op stuff, go to the class notes doc and read over the SI terms that Dave is so proud of that he wrote out. And really, really download the patterns for yourself of what the hell is double deciding? What is single deciding? What's a double decider, single observer? Figure that shit out. And then figure out really what an introvert extrovert is to somebody that has a last animal, consume or sleep if they're an extrovert, etc. And because you got to know if you are an observer in any way, shape, or form, an introverted one, extroverted one, SN, EP, IP, or EJ, whatever, it doesn't matter. In some way, shape, or form, within a year, within 10 years, you're going to be fucking off your life in some way with pathway, missing information, S versus N, surprise, I don't know what job to do. And you're going to kind of not be super stuck with people. You'll be able to kind of work that out, even though you might have people. And then the same is the problem with the deciders. You're not going to be stuck with the pathway and the job. You're going to be feeling like, why does this person hate me? Why do I have no friends? And I don't know what to do about it. You and I, Habib, we can share and we'll talk it out. We'll decide like, yeah, I kind of have people problems. I'm kind of a dick and I have a hard time with friends. And we're talking it out. But like, yeah, I know it's me, but I could get on that and we're not stuck, even though we still have it. But we're like aliens in pathway and like, we're going to be weird with the observation. And then introvert, extrovert, knowing what void are you leaving or where are you burning yourself out? After you get that, like that's all I'm hoping for when people get their type is like in the audios I give them like trying to go like, hey, take away this. So in the next month, start to catch it. Fucking catch a few. So now I'm ranting. Playing the catch a few game. Like, what do you got to catch? If you're an observer, you got to catch that 50 fucking times a day. You're annoying everybody around you with stupid shit. Like not being able to log on the computer and then you blame them for it or blame the fucking Mac for it. Like you're annoying people with your missing information bullshit and everybody fucking hates you. And then deciders, you're a nonstop soap opera of fucking drama. Well, why do they not like me? And I did this and it's not fair and it's my turn. And like, if you're around other people that know this code, you sound like a fucking broken record. Like, so it then becomes, you're not doing this every once in a while. When your brain fucking wakes up and once every 2 years, you're like, huh, was that kind of me? Like, no wonder you're so full of anxiety and depression. So it becomes catch a few. And like, it's why people have a hard time working here. Cause it's like, there's one, they're like, whoa. Like, holy shit. And the people walk away rather traumatized because they're like, wait, so I'm doing this all the time everywhere. And me, Shan are like, you haven't caught a single one. You come in just spouting your shit and just, and then people are just traumatized. They're like, wait, it's every sentence, every word, every action, every observation. Like, look at your shit mess of a life. Where do you fucking think it's coming from? And so it's either you get a mommy to follow you around who's not going to be me or Shan and be like, there's one, which would be 50 times a day. Or you try and set traps for yourself. You try and set goals. You're like, okay, I'm going to get up and not make my bed. So how am I going to fuck this up? I'm going to get up and how am I going to mess up brushing my teeth? Oh, I have an interaction with a family member. How am I going to make them feel like they're the bad guy because I'm a decider? And then it's like what I tell Cody, like this works, by the way. If you ever want to like fuck with your own brain, is say the question of, hey, Cody, there's 3 things wrong in your room. Go find 2 of them. Like just some kind of word game like that. Because when I would ask him like, hey, are you missing it? He's running out to school. Are you missing anything? No. Is there anything in your room? No. And there's like, toothpaste on the floor and there's ants everywhere. It's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay, there's 3 things that are wrong. Just go find 1 or 2 of them. And like that works. And so for myself, that's how I get up every day. I'm like, okay, I'm an observer. Let me just catch 3. I'm fucking tired. Let me just catch 3. And so just go find a couple of them. And that type of, because I don't have time to wait for next summer, I'm going to go on a road trip and I'm going to catch 10. It's like, no, I'm going to catch these little ones. So that's kind of how it's evolved into our daily life of playing the catch a few game. And therefore, as many little workouts a day as possible is the game you start playing. This is my long blast.
That's awesome.
See,
great.
I caught it. I'm blasting too much.
No, we did it. Yeah, and that's great about the theory versus practice. I mean, like catching a few is an ultimate practice. And yeah, like actually that kind of gets me to like this other part that, this is a different question where like, where's like real psychology with all this in terms of like I feel like people, and it comes from that void, I think, of what you actually FI want is for people to have weekly places to go to, kind of talk out their problems, be used as a lens and stuff. But like, how do you see people who have therapists and other people to talk things out with, and they're using kind of that method, or they're trying to go like, for example, with me, I'm trying to use ADHD, right? I'm like, oh snap, like I got this OE on crack. Let me check if I have ADHD. Oh shit, I might. Oh fuck. And then, by the way, like Dr. Russell Barkley, like that dude reminds me a bit of you. I don't know if you know about him.
No.
But he's a good one, but like he might be a blaster, and so maybe if you don't like your own type. But like, what is real science doing for you? Like the Hubermans that you're watching in the bathroom, the actual psychology people, the Petersons, is there any hope for people to use those other sources? Like, kind of like, is that helping you? Is that helping other people from all the client list you have?
Yeah. So for me, one thing I do is I'll jump back to like our great grandparents generation, and it's like this op stuff and psychology and the internet and all that. Like, you're just fine if you want to grow. Like, there's always, like, humanity and evolution, there's always been more than enough. If you want to grow, if you want to get out of whatever challenges, if you want to grow up, right? Like the hero's journey, like that's there's so much growth there. It's stories. It's been around for thousands of years. So anybody that I'm trying to like disconnect the need for Thor's hammer. If I don't have Thor's hammer, I can't get. It's like, hey, Thor has the hammer because he has become Thor and has learned that he doesn't need the hammer. That's why he gets the hammer and you fucking don't. And everybody's like, well, I have to have the hammer. I have to have the app. I have to have the psychologist. Well, is it ops? Is it big five? Is it medication? It's like, hey, Dick, it's get that scared, weak fucking state out of your soul. Become the type of person that is more grown up, more calm, is owning your shit. And then you'll find all these tools, So it's like even ops, like I'll shit on ops real fucking fast because I'll see people idolize it or try and use it to hide behind it or use it as a shortcut. If I just had my type, all my problems would be solved. Like, oh boy, another one of these, right? So for another thing randomly too, it's like, who the fuck cares if you have ADD? Like that's another thing I saw with psychology. It's like, I'm sorry, where's the 0 point? Like the dial is spinning. When you say you have ADD, there's just kind of a big NI game. It's like, oh, the OCDs beat you to it. They got to define it's like the white people that took over America. It's like, Indians are bad. You're like, oh, fuck. How did they do that? I'm like, well, you let your guard down. They came in, they stole everything. And now you're the bad guys. You got kicked out of your own land. Like, what happened? And so it's like the ADDs are like, you're off the spectrum. Like, says who? The OCDs? Like, who's defining the terms? You just were late to the party of defining who's crazy. if the ADT people got in there first, then the OCD people would be the ones that are off the spectrum. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
who's
Okay,
what side
so
is
I
up?
totally know where you're going with all that, and that's really good. I think it's really good. They're really, it's really, are you growing or are you not, right? And I love the grow and give situation. Like that is the right kind of place for people to go down. You know, you got your human needs, but then at the end of the day, you want to grow and give. Um, and I think, oh, 70, the age 70, like one of the jokes is kind of like, hey, we're all gonna basically learn the ops stuff by age 70, even if you didn't know about ops,
Yeah,
right? But like the whole point of having this tool is like, can you get there faster? Can you
yeah.
learn that you're a selfish ass faster? Can you learn that you're, over consume earlier in life? Can you catch a few before you're on your deathbed? You know? Um,
But I
so
think
what does it
only
mean, I think, for you to like help people speed things up? Like, what does it mean for a person to go through that hero's journey where they're, instead of answering the call 20 years down the line, they're answering it today? What does that difference do for people?
I think the biggest factor though is the pressure of the universe, the pressure of the rock and the hard place. So it's like from what I'm seeing in the data is when I'm talking to 22-year-olds where life is just fine, this information just bounces off their head, or they get all confused, or they understand it just fine. A lot of them understand it just fine. They're like, cool, interesting. And then it doesn't change a damn thing about their life, nor should it. Because like evolution is like, look, the game's working fine for most people most of the time, especially pre 25 years old. And so I think with this op stuff, from what I'm seeing more and more clearly, is it's a tool for those in the darkness. So I think that's what I continually see. Like in my FI, I just see that it really shines in the darkness, whether you're dealing with crime or midlife crisis. I don't like the stage that we're in the business, we're in the early years. So I'm just trying to get through the fucking early years. I don't like that it's just a couple of people here. I don't like that we have a large staff, don't have a large staff yet. Like I don't like it. This is the early years. I don't like it. So what I like is when we can get up to scale and really match the right tool for the right job. TE. Like this is a tool that thrives in the darkness. Then fucking put me in the darkness. I enjoy the practice of the YouTube shows and getting a new shirt every couple of months and the lights. It's kind of what I have to do to get to the next, but that's not where this stays. It's not where it thrives. Not that we won't have people on staff or other people can't take that and go do that. That's not going to be for me. For me, I'm like, this is a tool for the darkness, and it's for those that are going in the darkness. Like, I don't want to fucking talk to somebody who's like, hey, cool, interesting, maybe this could speed my life. I'm like, I want to talk to the person that's in fucking hell. And usually they're older, and the more complicated, hard, you can't even call the fucking A team to come save your ass type of problems. That's the ones I want to deal with. The ones that are like the hardest of the hardest of the hardest, of like death, darkness, that like masculine FI, like that's where I want to go. Because that's where I seem like, oh, take my fucking handcuffs off, take this fucking ridiculous shirt off, let me mess my hair up. Let's fucking get to work. Let's get in the hard stuff, the darkness, and get down into the real fucking issues, where the end goal is an objective result. Did we get the project done? We get the person out? Did we get the person saved, or you saved? Like yes or no? Like I don't want to live in a subjective like, well, that didn't convince me. I'm like, well, what the fuck do I care? And I don't want people's money for it either. So for myself, it's like I've had to, as you can see, like there's a wrestling with that. So I've had to like I'm in the process of learning like I guess it's like DE and FE as well. It just feels like it's very, very blurry. I can barely see it. Of like it's hard for me to see like, okay, you're a 23-year-old and you're actually doing really good. Okay, I'm 45 and angry, and so okay, so there's gonna be a difference of values here. And so it's hard for me to, or I'm getting better at it, to be like, okay, let me step into this person just needs this, and this person, I don't need to like, hey kid, I just got back from war and you need to know this. Like, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't doesn't need to fucking know.
Oh,
Now,
that's so good.
when you do go through war in 20 years, call me, but I don't need to like tell you how bad it is or how hard it is or what this person's going through or whatever. So I've also learned as well that like, just still like I still feel like the learning curve is just still like this. Like I still have a hard time like processing what I'm learning in this stuff, but I feel like what I'm learning now is like more and more of like how evolution is okay. Like like the world really doesn't need saving. Like, you'll hear stories of like people's regrets on their deathbed. Like, okay, look into that. And then you start to hear from a lot of different sources of what people say on their deathbed. And a lot of people are like, yeah, that's fine. Who cares? Like there's not like these dying regrets. There's not like this huge, horrible story. They still died a fucking loser, but they're a happy loser. And like, who are you to judge? You know, they live their saviors only, and they died and they're fine. And their family's like, yeah, it's fine. And so it's like, you're like, okay, I don't want to be like amplifying a problem for somebody that when there's not necessarily a real problem in their life at that time, or in the larger scale of evolution, or the world isn't the world says they're doing fine, you know.
Wow.
So for me, it's just I'm kind of getting to the stage where it's just get the information out there, get this figured out, get our stuff built up, but then also really realizing, like, back to the split of like, have it where the information can be a little bit more entertainment, educational, horoscope, which is what everybody wants, by the way. Everybody wants Enneagram. They want a profile. Ding, ding, ding. They want it, you know, I get it. And like have that, but then also have a very distinct, okay, if you want it, if you're really, really in trouble, if you're really going through the little Dave audio page I set up has been getting that, where I've been getting people that have been coming through. They're like, hey, I don't want to fuck around. This stuff's great. Anyways, can you give me some insight on this and this? And that's been kind of a little avenue where I've been able to talk with people that are just trying to deal with something, you know, not super dark or whatever, but just trying to get somewhere, trying to figure something out, trying to use this for some growth, you know. So yeah.
By the way, shout out for all that. Like, I know, like, thank you for setting up that Dave audio page, first of all. Second of all, the audios that you gave in general on your class notes doc, those were amazing. And I think it's not just about like getting the information out quicker. I think well, that's part of it. But I think there's a certain casualness to it. Like, this is a different format, like a different format. It felt refreshing for you to like try something new. And so I want to encourage that. Like, you're trying new things with the business, you know, don't worry about like what people expect from you. Like, there's that, like, I think when you're experimenting with the NT Blast or whatever, like, it's really good. And I think people really love that and enjoy that. And also shout out to Shan's new studio. I saw a lot of love in all the forums and stuff over that, and people are gushing over it. And
yeah.
That's so good. So like those projects that you guys have, like, you know, 2023, like that's kind of like one of the things of like, hey, I want to ask you about like, hey, how's 2023 going? And just like the future, does it look good? Like they're getting honed in on like, hey, I need to serve the people in the darkness, not the people, you know, who are doing great. You know, we'll give them something, right? Like as preventative medicine, possibly, right? Like not, all right, I shouldn't have used the word medicine, but like preventative something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how are these new projects treating you in 2023?
Yeah, really good. So we've Shanny's been really taking the lead on this the past year or so, just working on just redoing the website from the bottom up, largely from the software. Like the pay cart software is the original problem of like we needing a pay cart software that's not it's very IJ like. It needs to be able to take multiple payments, PayPal, and then eventually crypto when crypto comes back. Just something that's a little bit easier for people around the world to use as far as payments and stuff. So there'll be a change of like people will be signing up for the new software, or whatever. We've got it where it's going to be very easy and very, you know, non-stressful and non-observer dramatic. It's all my brain wants to process is, you know, website stuff. But with that, it's given us a lot of time to build in other avenues and stuff, different things that we'll be doing. So for myself, I've done a lot of writing. I've written out like a beginner series thing, which is really nice. People have been asking for that forever. And so I've just been chipping away at that this last year. And then also the terms has been really helpful. And so it's like one thing is like starting to introduce a consistency of writing. Because when I started writing every morning, like a year and a half ago, I'm like, okay, if you start this is fucking forever. You can't just be like, okay, there, I did my writing. Can I go? It's like, no, you gotta be thinking about books and, you know, becoming the identity of a writer. And that was definitely hell to go through and process. But now that I'm on the other side of that, it's like, you know, writing is going to be a consistent thing. And then therefore having the new website set up is just more to where it's a lot easier for us to do something, to write it, to get it like on a Google Doc, to a draft, to the upload page, to make it live. And that's where a lot of time takes, oddly enough, is like little things like that. Like you'll get something written up and then get it on the website, and then the text is all messed up, and you go to bed, then you get up in the morning and you got to fix it. And, just getting those kind of systems faster, smoother. Shani's got her studio going, which is really good because she's going to be kind of taking more kind of a deep dive type of lessons, where she's kind of setting up a studio, where I'm kind of like on the conveyor belt of like the weekly stuff. And so I might be doing a little bit of changes there with the weekly stuff. Probably gonna get the 4 Q&As down to 2, because I'm finding like I'm gonna ask the community, tell them like, look, this is where I'm gonna pull and ask. And I'm like, I am gonna be doing 2 rather than 4, because I need more time to actually chase down, and I'm gonna put that same amount of, I've gotten the time and the energy down to where my schedule is okay. I can do 4, it's not necessarily a time thing like it was before, but it's like, I'm just there. Even for me, there's not enough consume. Like, I want to chase down the Paris Hilton story or whatever. There's not enough time to be able, because I got to jump to the next one. So looking at that, of like putting more depth into 2 rather than 4. And then Shani's got some different ideas of where I'm going to be doing the consistent stuff. Then she can be able to take kind of the tailored, whether it's a course on something or a deep dive on something, or even something more responsive or live. I don't want to get into too many details, but like, different, she'll be able to kind of cover different angles and stuff. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a huge, for us here at the team, it's a huge relief, because like we've been working on it a lot for 2 years, and a lot of it's just been like, website stuff and writing stuff. It's really easy if you do that for a living, but if you don't have the skills in that area, like me and Shan, then it just fucking takes forever. So it's going to be a big deal for us. Like the community is going to be like, hey, cool, yeah, that's great, hey, thanks a lot, awesome. But for us, it's going to be a big level up in our systems and our website and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Give us a lot more.
And let me just say that, like, the 2 rather than 4, I thought it was like a year coming. Like last year, I think you mentioned that you're going to go down to 2 from 4, and then it never happened. And I was really looking forward to you taking care of yourself more on that level. And I really hope you do it, and take that time for yourself. Like, you don't need a reason. This is kind of what I hear from my wife, who's Savior FI. Is like, hey, you don't need a reason. Like, just be your FI.
Right. I appreciate that. That's really good. I want to have that reaction from people. I want them to be like, hey, would you please? I'm like, thank you. I want to make sure that I'm giving more than enough. I have put the pressure on myself of like, my reward of getting the website done is that then that's when I'm going to switch my schedule over from 4 to 2. And it's so ironic, because at this time now, it's like I've been able to get my video creating systems so fast, and I kind of enjoy them. I'm like, well, I could do 4 forever at this point. But I kind of do. I guess one thing I'm processing is like, very slowly, and I'm sure you're probably starting to notice this to some degree. I guess it'd be one thing I'd want to share. I consider myself, much like everybody in the community, I just feel like I'm 6 months to a year ahead of some people on some things. I feel like I'm starting to get little glimmers of, I'm not faking the OE, or I'm not faking the consume. Like there's most of the time when I have to OE, or I have to respond in the moment of like, quick, get a rental truck. Like all of a sudden some unplanned event. I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity for growth, and let's Jordan Peterson, I'm doing that shit. And I'm pushing my way through it. But there are actual times that I'm like, that was weird. I was like, I actually wanted to consume, or I actually wanted to. Shanny and I were driving home, and I just went, whoosh, and we just went that way, and we just went and explored. Like, and it's just actually happening. Like, you'll actually see your demons start, like that little muscle will actually start to turn on, and that's weird. Then you find yourself like this, or you're processing it. Like, am I wanting to consume? Am I wanting to research and have the time of just let me not talk? And I just want to learn, and then I'll talk about it later. What the hell is this?
Yeah. Can I share something about this?
Yeah, please.
So like my guess, so you're a number 2. I have the number 1 type, and this is not about whatever. But the growing and giving, what I'm seeing, and maybe you can see whether it fits or not. I see the number 1 and the 3 type as growing. 1 is being the best, growing. Number 3 is top in their field, growing, right? And number 2 and 4, giving.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Holding it down, like, so for the Tony Robbins stuff, it's about growing and giving, but guess what? You're going to be better at one of them than the other, And Dave, you're giving like a motherfucker. You're giving a lot. And I'm saying that in like an affectionate people. I have a totally different reasoning for using the word motherfucker. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
it's a positive word in my book.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so you're giving a ton, right? And Shan mentioned it, and like I'm mentioning it, like I don't know. The only people who will maybe shit on you for that are maybe people who are also giving too much. So I've seen that where people call each other out
Yeah, yeah.
when they share the same saviors. They're like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
right,
you're not
right.
doing enough blast, Dave." It's like, who the fuck? Oh, it's a blaster telling you,
Right,
like,
right.
hey, no, chill the fuck out. Like, so I would say you're giving a lot and getting on this growing side of it. Like that's the part where it's like, hey, you do have the consume. You can chase down that Paris Hilton story, you know. And I would love to see that from you. I remember there was like some Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff, and I was like, oh, is Dave gonna go chase that one down? And I was like, oh, the Will Smith slap. It's like, oh,
Right,
Alpha been knocked down. Can we look up to any of
right,
these motherfuckers anymore? Like shit. Like, but then it's like you kind of have to slow down, go from 4 Q&As to 2,
right, right.
and then like really work on that growing part. And I'm not telling you to work on stuff. I'm just saying the pattern of
No,
what I'm
totally.
noticing
Right.
is the ones and the threes on the growing, and yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
really good. I really appreciate that. It's very true. And I feel like with a lot of these things, it's like you could try and catch as many as you can with the exercises. But I guess one thing I was processing as well is like having compassion on kids and stuff like that. It's like I know for myself, it's like not until I've had enough that you really start to see. So not even for my own self, like we've been doing, I've been doing videos. I've been doing weekly videos since 2008. Like, so take that in. Never taken a fucking week off. And then the Myers-Briggs or the personality, what is this business? The ops business since 2018, and so it's like, even for me, I'm like, okay, that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a, so even for, so like, it's like, you've got to, it feels like, I'll tell this to the extroverts that'll come through, or like sleep last or whatever. I'm like, look, I hate to say this, but I feel like it's a 10,000 to 1 ratio. Like for me, like I can get to my consume when finally that abusive blast is just finally exhausted, where it's finally just run out. And then like that blast muscle weakens up and then just unconstricts. And now the consume can start to go in and grow. And it's like you try and like shave that down. You try and like tell the next kid, hey, don't do that. But it's like, yeah, it's a process. So I really appreciate that, because I'll definitely like continue to stack the momentum of building up the consume, and then getting the I guess ultimately as well, just kind of blasting this out, like getting the objective feedback, like, because my blast will tell me, hey, you're not doing enough, right? And I'll feel that. But like to hear objectively on the spectrum of the tribe, where the tribe is like, no, you're doing too much. So I tell clients, I'm like, hey, this is what the tribe says about you. You're doing this too much, therefore you're allowed to dial down. So that's really great. I really appreciate that.
yeah, I'm glad I was able to get that one to you. There's a number of things like I could honestly like give you endless compliments and stuff because you've given a lot. I mean, there are thousands of videos. The other thing on the 2 videos, like the reduction, there are thousands of videos or whatever number it is in the backlog. Like people can go watch those.
Yeah, right.
It actually makes it all right, to give a little bit of the pain side of it is like on my end is like I want to go sleep process some of the older videos, but I'm like, shit, there's another 4 this week. God damn.
I know.
Like I'm consumed savior and I'm like, shit, like can I keep up with this? And
I know. I watch out with guys that I watch. I'm like, hey, Lex Friedman, I can't even keep up with, like, slow down on your too many coming out. Yeah.
Superman 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Owen Cook is doing like 2 a week now. So I also too want to get, we saw this in RC where it's like, one of the things that I'd like to do is the OI of the videos of like, I feel like, you'll see this again by the community where, one was like a Rhett and Link video we did on YouTube years ago, where it was like an observer decider, and it's just like there's every once in a while you'll randomly do a video, you're like, okay, that fucking nailed it, and then it just falls into the abyss. It's like I want to be able to create. We had an RC, it was like a master's parts list, so it's just like I want to be able to create like, okay, of the thousands of videos we did, here's the top 4 on OE versus OI or whatever, and be able to kind of grab them and capture them, and therefore you can get that like solid database. And then if you see another video later, you're like, oh, that's just building off of that one. Like, because a lot of it is routine, repetition. You start to see the same stuff over and over again, but having a home base for it, I feel like now we're starting to get there, because if you ask me like social types, I'm not. I couldn't tell you. I could tell you about FE. I feel like I know that one now. That took me 10 years. I feel like I could give like a final answer on what FE is. You know, I could do like a final like put that in the database, put that in
Yeah.
the archives. You
For
know,
sure, the
so it's not just a
archives would be
top.
good. Yeah, yeah, like a
Yeah,
ranking system. A quick question on the social types out there. Like, how long do you think it'll take for the dust to settle on all that? Because I think people kind of want the answers now. I want it, and I want it now. Like, and it's like, bro, like, wait up, like, freaking, like a year or two. Like, I understand quite a bit, but like, and I'm trying to like type some people in the community here and there, but like, yo, like, slow down with it. Like, some people are like, hey, why don't I understand it already? Like,
yeah. I'd say
uh,
join the psychology. Like it's a like the social types. Gregory Clark, you know, he's the guy. Then when we started to see the social types, I started searching around, consume last, going, okay, who else is seeing this, and found him. And you know, I don't put a lot of pressure on him because he's just as dumb as I am. He's just like, I don't know, I think I'm seeing this, and here's the data I have, and he's just trying to piece it together. He's just the next jackass with his observations and flow charts, and that's all I am. So I just feel like I feel like join. I feel like it's like I guess one thing that every once in a while I'll have a slight 1% sadness for other people of like, hey, you do know this is a point in time that's going to be gone, right? Like I switch out the year. How old are you? You're in your 30s, right?
30. I'm 30.
So it's like when I grew up, it was always like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 19, like the 1900s. Like it was like the year 2000 was way ahead. It's like we don't have that anymore. It's not like we don't say like the 20s. But so it's like when I see the year what is it, 2023, I think of 1923. So I think of like Coca-Cola and Ford and the Wright brothers, and you know, World War One is coming up and the Roaring Twenties. So I'm so like my OI is built on 1900s, the 1900s timeline. Like I've memorized that timeline. And so I'm like, hey, you know, it's only 1920, right? Like, you know, this is the very, 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 like, don't you want to get in on this? Like, you don't want to like throw 2 nickels into Coca-Cola in the year 1923. Oh, okay. Well, you don't know yet. Okay, well, just sit back and blah, blah, blah. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a huge fucking
Oh
opportunity. And I'm
man.
just like, okay. And I'm just grabbing up. That's why I'm hiding in the fucking kiddie pool, just secretly grabbing up as much as I can. Like, yep, not ready. Yeah, it's totally fake. Yeah, totally. Just
Oh man.
suckers.
I love
So
that.
that's what I look like. That's what it looks like to me. It's just like fucking get in on it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the dark side of it. And yeah, cuz in the darkness you can grow quite a bit in terms of like when people don't know and aren't aware, and it's kind of the opportunity moment, and there's skepticism like at the max level, and it's like,
Right.
"Oh, shit."
And that's just
Yeah.
where we are in this time in history.
Yeah.
Like they were fumbling around the 1900s. We're fumbling around now in the 2000s. Like we don't fucking know. Like we're tracking it in some type of objective measure. That's all I can say. We're able to identify the coins to some degree. What does it mean? How far does it go? Like that's what I get to enjoy the rest of my life, constantly learning the latest version of that. That's one thing I can say as well, is like I'm going to be the guy that's going to be always speaking in versions. Like, you know, once we start, you know, actually doing books or whatever, it's like version 1, version 2. Like, I really get the like. Speaking of the 1900s, I forget, it was the president of the patent office in the early 1900s. Like, I love this story. It's so true. It's a true story. Like, I forget what the guy's name was, but it's like he wanted to close the patent office down in the early 1900s because he said there's nothing else that could be invented. That's me. That I don't know. I don't know who the guy was. You can look it up. I swear to God, I
Yeah.
would strongly guess he's probably fucking consumed last. Like the sense of completion.
Oh my
Like
god.
that's me. I'm like, we're done, we're done, we're done. But it's like I've really had to learn. No, it's never done. It's never done.
Nothing new under the sun.
And you're always figuring it out. So I guess I feel you. I feel the frustration. What's the social types? Are they real? They're not real? Or whatever problem somebody has at this time. I'm kind of with you. I guess it was just more of like I would encourage people to kind of manage the stress of that, because as soon as the social types settle, then now AI is coming, and now
There you go.
now you got to deal with the unsettled feeling of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I really appreciate from the system and you, and the way you talk about things is like calming down the observer problem. Like that's not an easy thing to do. Like observers, because it's not about people, and it can get into this weird territory. It's like in the mind, like you can see it as real. The
Yeah.
alien stuff, you can see it as so real, and no one can like talk you out of it, because it's not like someone clearly like murdered someone and they're wrong for it. It's not decisions, it's the observation. It's like, wait, is this Big Bang or whatever, God, or these more ephemeral questions, um Yeah, I mean, like the op stuff, it really calms down, I think, the observer, which is a tall order to do in
Yeah.
the first place. And that's really if you're playing the game and catching yourself
Just
and
lets you know,
observing.
dude, there's another one coming after this one, so space
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, that's a big one. But yeah, let's try to get to an end. I think I put something about message of hope for people. And in the title, for whatever reason, like I see myself as an optimist. I see myself as trying to head towards the light, and I see the INTJ archetype being the darkness. So that's, you're the dark, I'm the light. But at the same time, like you found a lot of light in the darkness for those who are ready
Yeah.
for that. But do you have a message of hope from that dark basement that of Young or whoever, right? Like that, because you've been through the shit, you've been through the hell. You helped. You were there for Shan when she went through it herself. You were there for yourself when you went through it. And yeah, do you have a message of hope for people who are in that darkness today?
Yeah, I guess I would just say that from what we're seeing more and more is that it's very normal. And I feel like for myself, it helped give me a lot of comfort. I don't know, maybe this is a DI thing of just knowing that there's other people like Jocko and et cetera, that when you're feeling alone and tired and depressed and anxious, that's completely normal. And there's like a brotherhood. There's a closeness of the people that I love and I respect the most. They've gone through the most amount of hell. I remember Greg Plitt was a guy that I just like locked onto. It was like me and him going through that hell. Like there was somebody, I wasn't alone. I was like had his audios that I was listening to. And so I was able to pull some power and some love and some connection and some okayness of going through that. And I think for me as an observer, like being able to see the pathway that, okay, this is kind of normal. You're looking at the map of hell and it says you are here. And it's kind of funny, but there's kind of a normalcy of it. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to do in our videos is to knock down the monsters and trade monsters for problems. If I can help kids see it's not a fucking monster, you're not fucking special, your depression, your anxiety, you want to die, like fucking we've been there. Like it's a real thing. As bad as it is, it's so much worse than you even think people have got. It's really, really bad. As bad as it is, as bad as you're trying to get everybody to see, it really is that bad. But then also realizing that it's also normal in this world, in this study and what we talk about, what we go through, like this is what we are obsessed with knowing more about. And then also knowing that it's part of a cause and effect flow. There's opposites to it. And so as much as darkness and negative that there is there's a reason that you got there from, the opposite of that. And there's a reason of what can become of it on the other side, the two useful tools that I find myself using in my TISI, like kind of these little hardened tools. The one that I keep coming back to is some type of Zen, where Tony Robbins talks about your inside world and your outside world. And I feel like when I'm really stuck in dark spots, I have these two little things I can shimmy. I can go to work on changing my inside world of like, okay, what am I resisting? What do I need? Where do I actually need to grow? Where I need to start accepting something or growing up or calming down or getting the rage out? Where can I put pressure on myself? That's kind of my first go-to as a DI. I'll go and okay, where can I take this on myself? And then when you're banging your head against the wall and you can't take that anymore, you're like, all right, who the fuck do I got to start punching in the face here? What do I need to fucking break in the outside world? What needs to go? What sensor upgrade is what I call it. Like a lot of times my mornings will have a lot of complaining. And then by mid-morning, I have a sensor upgrade where I'm like, okay, then what needs to change? Do I need to move? Do I need to break up? Do I need to get a different job? Do I need to have a phone call? Do I need to have a conversation with somebody? But like something needs to change in the outside world where you're not in flow state. You legitimately have too much weight on the bar. Okay. You're trying to deadlift 500 pounds. Come on. Like you're just going to fucking break your back here. So really realizing that I have those two options. And then to that, I try and put standards to it. I try and lock myself in of like, I will never be depressed again. I will not go down that hole. I don't care what I have to do. If I got to fake it, if I got to cheat, if I got to drink a Jamba Juice and go to a Tony Robbins concert, if I got to listen to effects music, take a hot shower, cold shower, I don't give a fuck. I just won't go back down that. It's like a kidnapper. It's like, you're not getting me in that van. I'll bite you. I'll claw your eye, but I don't care. I'm not going in there. I don't even care what it is that I'm doing. I just know I'm not going in that pit anymore. And so I'll set a standard of like, I don't care what I got to do. I got these two things to shimmy with. Do I got to do dramatic changes on the outside world or dramatic? The inside worlds feel like you can only do so much, but I don't care. I'm just not going back in there anymore. And that's like what I've been talking with clients on the Dave audio page and stuff. What I've kind of been finding is like I'll start to figure out that they'll have something. They're like, I want to move to France. I'm like, what? Like, what? I'm like, what did you just say? Why didn't say anything? Like, okay, never mind. And then we'll keep talking, and they're like, I want to move to France. I'm like, huh? And then like we'll work it out of like, hey, so I think what you got to do is move to France. They're like, oh my God, that'd be a great idea. And it's like that, and then like then. And it doesn't like
Oh my
they're
God.
probably still going to go cause more hell for their life, but at least they're not stuck anymore. They now have a bunch of problems, is what I see. Is like they're trapped under this monster, and then now they have a bunch of problems in the passport and the traveling, but they're flowing and they're moving. And so I've really learned to just trade that of like I'd rather trade. I will not go back to the monster pit. I will trade it for problems. You know, that's a standard that I'll set where I can put the like I'm not going to move. That's not negotiable. And then last thing. Again, back to Tony Robbins, is really objectively tracking the progress. And Tony Robbins talks about, if you pull open TikTok and go through Tony Robbins' things, you'll find a lot of good TikToks on that. I really recommend it, like downloading the tribe rather than your own toxic fucking head. Give that a fucking break. But the progress is happiness. And that's really true. It's kind of like Jeopardy. Like, here's the fucking answers, kid. Now see if your brain can start asking the right questions to get to those answers. But we found the answers, found them a long time ago. This doesn't mean we're going to, use them right away. But like, really finding that the progress, if you're making progress in measurable areas, measurable progress, that you are then allowed to tell yourself, it's okay. I'm doing good. I can still feel bad. I can still feel like I have a bunch of problems. I can still feel depressed. I can still feel this anxiety. But as long as I'm making progress, and then if you're a smarty head, if you're an NT, you really can start graphing it out and going, all right, even at minimal growth, even if I fuck it up every other day, I still will be in a good spot in 5 years. And like now there's light at the end of the tunnel. This point is like, you got to be able to build these antibodies when you're the game is the world's going to put you in a straitjacket and blindfold you. And can you get out? That's the game. And then as soon as you're out, guess what happens 10 years from now? All the challenges I have coming from myself, the hardest challenges I ever have in life are still ahead of me. So I gotta be able to talk myself through it, work myself through it, have these standards, have these goals, listening to Tony Robbins 24/7 because I'm gonna fucking need it. Anyways, just definitely really feel for people that are going through it, and just keep going. And then the last thing is, I feel sorry for those that have it too easy in their 20s and 30s. I secretly, and sometimes people catch me, they're like, why do you sound happy? I'm like, because you're 29 and you're next level depressed, which means you're unable to be this depressed at 49. That's like, get it over with sooner, and be able to kind of get through it. So yeah, man.
Good. Thanks for everything. And I'm sure everyone will love rewatching this and etc. Yep. Let's
do you want to do a quick comments real quick? Just play energy.
Yeah, the comments. Yes, sure. Let's see. What is FE then? Okay, wait, that's something. But yeah,
Grace Sparks.
Sorry.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, I'll go back to her. But yeah,
there's Melanie. I know her.
Lovely interview. Okay, there's some. I should not have showed that one. God damn it.
Go straight to his head.
One. All possible. What are you getting? There was a good question from Gracie. I'm scrolling up here. Gray showing some love for Dr. Barkley.
All right.
Gracie. Okay, so this is a question that she asked. Different observer problems for sensors versus what you're going through. Like.
Yeah, right. I think so this is one I know. The sensory ones. Just watching a good interview today. Like this guy who does interviews gangsters and stuff. I believe him to be ISTJ. So it's like the S at the top. They're always trying to figure out the meaning. They're like, okay, so I gathered all these facts, whether it's SI or SE. So I got this fact. I got this fact. I got this fact. I got this fact. So what does it mean? What's going on? What's happening? Like I was watching this interview guy, and he's interviewing this Korean artist, musician guy. And he's trying to like get the timeline of his life. And he's like, so why did you move? Why? And like just running them through all this shit of like, hey, dude, because the kid was just trying to leave his parents and go figure. Like, here's the NF. Like, here's the bottom line. Here's the abstract. Here's the story. So the S at the top is like overworking all the stories, all the facts, so they could get to that kind of punchline of, oh, so this is why, or this is what you mean, And then the N at the top, the N observer, It's kind of figuring out why, like, oh, I know why the kid's doing that, or I know what they're doing, or I recognize that chapter in life, but then not having all the facts, not having the story to back it up. That's kind of how I look at it. The S versus the N observer. The one is looking too many facts, trying to figure out why. The other one knows why, but doesn't have the facts to back it up.
All right. Cool. Nikki here was referencing Minority Report. I think that's the thing I was looking at. There's so many comments here. I'm trying to see. Yeah, the problem is I didn't ask people to ask questions. There was one by Julia about like number ones. Do they complain in a demon state?
That's a good question.
Like is the complaining that number ones are doing, let's say if I'm trying to complain or share some of my vulnerability, would I be doing that kind of in a demon state? It's like, actually, I don't have it together,
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, would have to. So I'm like, this is as new as it is for me, for everybody else. But I would just say my observation is I notice I will complain more than Shan, and I also noticed that like 4s and 3s, like when you get on the phone with them, like they'll be like sniffing, coughing, their dog will be barking, like they don't have as well. I don't want to say too general. Like I'm just talking my experience, right? But it's like I feel like some people can kind of make a fool of themselves and not really care, and some people are very sensitive about not looking bad. And so I guess that would be kind of following in that pattern, where it seems like the ones are trying to like be very proper and tight, and they don't even want you to catch them sneezing, where other types can just be fucking falling down the stairs slobs and they don't really fucking care, So it's just I don't know if that's a real pattern or what, but
Okay,
how many
great.
lose their security deposits? Oh, punching walls. All right. Yeah.
Oh man. The masculine energy, right?
Yeah. I had that in college. I had to fix some walls. I was kicking them. I couldn't punch them. I couldn't punch through them.
Man, you mentioned genetic empathy at some point. Like, you got Cody there, double masculine, and then also the criminals, right? Like, I know we said something molester, something, but it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
Before we go too far there, but like at the same time, like what is it about the masculinity that's kind of just going hard? Like,
yeah, right.
How are people going to ever get that under control?
No, man. The ones you got to look out for are the double feminine girls, because they're especially if they're number ones, that like you get that it's where does so like the masculine sensory, I feel like it's kind of so ridiculous, but it's also so relieving. Like nothing feels better than punching. As soon as you're done punching a hole in the wall, you feel better, and then your hand hurts and now you go deal with that. And so it's like you kind of get the flow. But what happens if you have like masculine N? Like how do you get that out? It's like a masculine FI. It's like the where the masculinity is in these abstract functions. It's not as a clean of a shotgun blast as like just breaking something like the masculine sensories do, So and the double feminine girls, I'll see like society. If society if you're a double masculine man and like you're angry and like you throw a taxi cab, everyone's like, well, that makes sense, and like that's okay to do, and like you're kind of trained like, yeah, I'm a double masculine man and I punch walls and that's how I feel better, and people kind of like go along with that and they accept that, right? But if you're a female or you're a double masculine female or whatever, like society like will look at you as like not a threat, yet you still have this masculine threatening aggressive energy that you're not even letting yourself get out, and so that's kind of, you know what I mean? So that's something I'll look for, is like the masculine smashers. Those are easy. That's where they're getting it out. Where's the quiet person that's pretending not to have any problems? Where are they getting it out?
I've totally that they scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's the old lady who's like poisoning her
which,
husband over 50 years.
Over here, got Melanie. She's asking, what's the most annoying thing about a number 2 Dave? Like maybe the Sleep Blast Play Dave, like the
right.
number 2. Because that's I've seen a few, number 2s that are in that type or similar-ish.
Yeah. What Shan complains the most is the responsibility at the top, where it gets really annoying that I'm just working on 50 things and it's like hard to commit to any one thing. And definitely like I didn't realize I was one of those people, because I see these types of people where it's like you kind of like wave your hand and they're like, oh, they're not all there. They're just like running through. you know, and you can't like stop and have a real like close, intimate conversation or in-depth thing. And you know, I always saw myself as such a person, but then that's part of like what the monkey nap is. You're like, wait, am I that guy? You know, like how am I 45? I'm just now realizing this. You know, so it's like from what I hear from Shan is that and I'll complain about that with Michael. He's the number 2 as well, so he's just always running around, you know, doing 1 of 50 things and not like deep diving on one. So I think it's like the lack of specialization, the lack of like getting one thing super done, and then also the lack of like putting your name on one thing, you know, being the best at one thing because you're just Johnny do everything, you know. So
Yeah.
I think that's rather annoying.
So this is just like a blockhead question about like, how do you feel about the accuracy on the social types as opposed to the 512?
Yeah.
512, you got the accuracy down.
Yeah,
How's
yeah.
your accuracy, you think, for the social?
Yeah, I would love if we get a chance to do this again. I'd love to talk about that more. That'd be a good one for us to chase down, the accuracy spectrum. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
the as fast as I can. So uh when Shani and I type people, it's on a spectrum of we could get 99 to 100%. I would say we haven't proven this that if we were to live with the people for a week, so that'd be like one extreme. Like that's where I swear to God we could get them the exact type every time. Probably not, but damn close. If we get 99 to 100% if we could live with the person. Then the spectrum comes down. The accuracy comes down if it's through video. Now, if they have more videos, the accuracy needle comes back up. And then literally like Shanny and I are typing people like as we're like walking down to the park, like, look at that ENFP. So like now that spectrum's like way over here. You know what I'm saying? So there's a spec. So when you take that all in, like we're off a lot of the time when we're sloppy. It's like when there's a client that just has one video, you know, some kid yesterday, this mopey kid with one video. I'm like, I don't know,
Totally
you know,
seen that. Yeah.
versus somebody
Restricting
that's
clients, yeah, might be the way on. Yeah, I'm surprised you guys accept so many that you do.
yeah.
Like this is so tiring. I typed like 6 people yesterday, and I'm like, wait, but I don't have my name tied to it to the extent that you guys do, because you guys, it's your business, and I'm like, oh snap, I'm just doing this like for fun on the Facebook
It's
group.
definitely hard. You definitely got to factor it in for your day. It's definitely hard.
Oh my
So it's
God.
like with the social types, I don't have the numbers on it yet because like Shannon and I haven't even officially in our own practice really we're just off and running. So all I can say is what I've noticed at this time, really only for the past 2 or 3 months. I'm just surprised that most of the time when we'll do a social type, we're getting them the same. So I would guess, I don't know, stupid feminine NT. It's more than enough. We're getting it.
Sure.
Most of the
Yeah, that's really good. But you know how to play the game, right? So yeah, there it is.
yeah.
So this one is about science. So like answer this however you want in like a quick fire way.
Hiring. That's what's in the way. Hiring. Like everybody work backwards from. If I got a call from Oprah, okay, insert Oprah from TomTom or Science or Big Five or whoever science is. If I get a call from the big guy, like I got to take Cody to school. I got to help Michael out with uploads. I got to mow the lawn. I don't mow the lawn, but it's like there's stuff. It's just me and Shan and Michael and Cody. And so it's like, I don't want 50,000 people coming to our fucking house. I don't want to be on the news 24/7. I don't want to be on all the fucking podcasts around the clock. Like I got bills to pay. I got a community to take care of. It's like hiring. That has been our biggest fucking thing. And so it's a normal business challenge, you know, and it's like, we got to get to that first 10 people and then we can start hiring specialists and stuff like that. So it's really a hiring at scale. I love watching the business shows and listening to the stories of YouTube or the YouTube lady. The Google guys lived in her garage. I love stories like that. And then she was like the 16th person to actually join Google, you know, like crazy stories. It's so like you hear about, you only had 16 people. They didn't even start. It's like, I dream for the day that we have 16 people. Like that seems so far away. So it's really hiring. It's because we need to work backwards from how can the Dave and Shan show, how can this not be on Dave and Shan? How can this be to where we have tons of different people where I'm just a dope?
Yeah. And so thank you. Was that enough play, you think?
Oh yeah, I'm great. I'm great.
All right, good. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of love in the comments. I'm glad we got to it. Thanks for holding up till we got to that part. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. But
Sweet.
hey, thank you everyone for tuning in, watching, rewatch it. There's a lot of good stuff here. Thank you, Dave. and whoever else is allowed. And thank you, Michael, for helping in the background. Maybe, I don't know. I'm
Yes, he
guessing
did.
with something.
Got all my shit set up.
Great.
Thank you, every double observer everywhere.